This episode of Scab Talk is brought to you by Lethal Gaming Gear. And welcome back to Scab Talk, everyone. Today's episode, we'll be discussing some Tarkov news, but mainly focusing on Marathon, Bungie's take on the extraction shooter genre. We're going to be discussing tons of that, our thoughts, opinions, and details, etc.
Yes, indeed. That's going to be the main focus of today. For those of you who are watching on video, on audio it might not be so obvious, but everyone who's jumped into chat over the last 2 days, because I ended up having to miss Monday, Tuesday streams, so I was streaming Wednesday, Thursday. Anyone who jumped in sees that I have a different background right now. Lots of questions about that at the moment. Basically, the long and the short of it is there is some building work going on at my actual house, and there's just drilling all day, and that's really not conducive to making content. So I've moved to my father-in-law's temporarily for my office, and I'm going to be here for a period of time, probably a couple of months while everything gets sorted out. We're basically tearing an old conservatory off the back of our house and like building it into a real room because it's too hot in the summer, it's too cold in the winter. So I'm going to be here while that gets done because we're doing some other stuff as well, like some flooring is getting changed and whatever. So like the whole, pretty much like most of the downstairs of our house had to be cleared out. So I'm here temporarily. And I'm still trying to deal with the lighting. There's like a window right here. It's making me look like I'm flashbanged the whole time. But I'm going to figure it out over the next couple of weeks to make it work. So yeah, I'm in a different place, but hopefully it should sound the same from now on. It should be basically as it was before. So what's been going on? I mean, we're going to talk about Marathon. Before we do, there's not actually that much happened in Tarkov Land. There has been ongoing stuff with the battle pass. I think I'm level 90 now for that. I'm just going through doing the dailies, unlocking the cosmetics, that kind of thing. BSG have closed off the labyrinth for the event, but you can still get back in there. There's two bars. They basically took away the cash purchases, I think, for the cards, but you can still get back in on the barters. They're pretty expensive. It's like 700,000 rubles per card. So if you want to go in as a 5-man now, it costs you like 3.5 mil as a group.
Wow.
So it is a lot more. But you can still go there. The loot has been diminished and stuff. But they basically released a load of statistics about the marathon event. That's not the marathon event. Goodness me, because it doesn't help. It doesn't help that we had an event called Marathon not that long ago in EFT. So
yeah,
I was talking to someone the other day about it, and they're like, "Oh, I thought you were talking about Tarkov." I was like, "No, I'm talking about a completely different game." So yeah, the stats here are a bit strange. So lots of people have been sort of analyzing them on Twitter, and the headline number of like taking the task Shady Contractor, which is the first mission in the line, being 669,669 is just such a weird number. It's like, yeah, it's possible. It's like there's two things that are weird about it. Firstly, the number itself is just very strange, and then secondly, the number's really, really big, and so people have kind of been confused as to whether this is a real number or whether VSG have inflated it. We just have to believe them, right? Because like nearly 700,000 people I guess it's plausible because concurrent players. I always sort of think about this, right? Because if you think about like concurrent players, and if you've got 100,000 concurrent players, that actually means like way more than 100,000 people playing a day. If you took like unique players over a 24-hour period,
exactly.
that's a way bigger number because you've got like 3 different broad time zones and people playing for different periods in that time zones and whatever. So it's a lot more than that. So like maybe it's possible. I don't know. I didn't actually. I can't remember where the source of this came from, but somebody told me that apparently there was some interview Nikita had done where he said that they have 150,000 concurrents, like quite regular or whatever, which doesn't surprise me. But at this point, I mean, I guess people come back for the events and whatever. So that's kind of been the sort of public discourse on this, and it probably includes PvE too. So with our conversation last week about PvP and PvE, there's probably a lot more people who have a PvE character that's like leveled up because that released ages ago now. People have got max traders and whatnot, and so when something new comes to the game, they'll be like, "Oh, I'll just hop on the PvE then and do it there." And so you actually probably have like a higher level of engagement across the community for these type of events because people have got characters good to go. And if you just want to participate every time there's a cool event in Tarkov in PvE, you can just do that because you don't have to wipe your character. So it's plausible. There's lots of reasons why it is plausible, why it looks strange. There's a few other parts to it. So the achievement ratio, I don't think that's interesting. That's just the number of people who did the first bit versus the second bit. Second part, you had to get all the quests done, get all the kills. Like it's a lot. So yeah, total raids into Labyrinth during the event, it's like 5 million. So it's It's about 9 per person. So obviously some people have done way more, some people have done way less. I probably did a bit more than that. I can't remember how many I did in total. Probably not that much more. I was probably in the 10 to 15 range. And average raid time in the labyrinth, 14 minutes. Kind of makes sense too. Survive and extracted is actually quite high. I'm actually surprised. It's like 50% of the raids on there, which
I guess that helps if you're in a
I don't know.
5-man.
This is the thing, right? Your chances of leaving are so much higher if you're in that squad. You're basically
Right.
after the first couple, once you've learned it a bit, like yeah, 1 or 2 of you might die sometimes, but a lot of the 5-mans are just going to get in there, clean up the bots, and then leave without anyone dying. So yeah, and PMC death ratio. I mean, this is pretty much just player population figure, 60% USAC. So that's not really interesting. And then what is quite funny is that Shadow of Tagilla actually has more kills on players than he does on him. I guess that sort of makes sense because there is only 1 Shadow of Tagilla per dungeon, but there's 5 players. So the actual opportunity for Tagilla to kill more than 1 player is actually there, whereas someone has to get in and just kill him without him killing anybody for it to tick the other way. So, but it is interesting that more PMC died to him than actually killed him in the end. Shows he wasn't a complete pushover. And then I mean the second section you can see at the bottom there's like these unique figurines, but people were there really just to farm the Labrys notes. That was the part that broke me. You had to get 5 of these Labrys research notes, and sometimes they didn't spawn even if you were in a 5-man. It just made the whole process really annoying. So that's why there's a huge disproportionate number of people going for those, because those were the things that you needed to progress with the quest and actually get the achievements. But that was the part that killed it for me. I didn't want to do it anymore. So yeah, it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting to see that there is still a lot of engagement with this, and I do think PV is part of this. And I actually said when the event was going on, I think it's probably one of the ones that is more interesting in PV, because when you went in the labyrinth, you were just you on your own, and in PV it was quite hard. I feel like in PV was sort of the middle ground where the event actually made the most sense. Oddly, because if you went in on PvP and played solo, you were just in the Thunderdome, and it was so hard to actually kill anybody unless you're like a literal Uber Chad and can win, 3 1v2/1s over and over and over again, and then fight the AI and then leave. So it's so difficult. Going in as a 5-man is just way too easy. But in PvE, when you went in, it was just you. So if you were doing solo PvE, you'd just be there on your own fighting the AI. And so they would all rush you. So you had to deal with them somehow. It wasn't split amongst other players or anything, but there were no PMC AI on there on PvE. So it actually felt like, I didn't actually play it because my character's not high enough level. I didn't grind it on PvE, obviously. But from playing the event on PvP and just sort of understanding the framework of how it worked on PvE, almost sounds like it might have been a better event to do on PvE. So I could well see why people would come back for this one in particular. But it's pretty good event. As I said, you can still go. You can still go if you want to. It's just expensive. Probably doesn't really make sense now to go as a 5-man with the reduced loot. Tagilla's not there all the time. I can't remember what his new spawn rate is, but it's not 100%. It's like 50 or lower. So you're not necessarily going to get all of the crazy ammo, because you could argue that it'd be worth going in because Tagilla turns up. He's got like 4 60 rounders full of Vigolnik or BS, and the same thing. They've all got good ammo in there. So those things you can't necessarily buy. So it might be worth going in, but they're not always there now, so it sort of diminishes a bit. So we'll see what happens with it. And as we know, it's part of the main story, right? Apparently, according to VSG. So it's going to have something to do with 1.0. So we will see how that pans out. Otherwise, there's not much else to talk about from the Tarkov world. As I said, the Battle Pass is carrying on, and they've got some discounts. There's a 20% spring discount if people are upgrading. The 50% discount from EOD to Unheard doesn't count in that because you get it for half price. So it's only $50. So upgrade from EOD to Unheard. You can't get another 20% off. Shame, but I would have bought it anyway. So, with that said, let's get on to the tasty topic, which is a good old Marathon, the game that's been in the running for a bit. We've, no pun intended, by the way, we've heard bits and pieces about this game over the past couple of months, and then we started to see people talking about playing it. Seemed like the initial creator kind of community, I don't know, building the game, discussion, whatever. Yeah, that was very NA focused, I think. And lots of people actually, for this early testing that they're doing, a lot of people believed it was like specifically NA. Doesn't seem to be completely the case. I don't know whether that's a creator versus everyone else kind of thing or whatnot. But anyway, people were starting to come back from Bungie HQ. There was some embargo that was lifted, and a ton of people brought out a load of videos about their first impressions and about the game. And there's like suddenly YouTube's flooded with 1,000 videos from different people who've been there and played it and whatnot. And then shortly afterwards, we've then announced this closed alpha, which is going to be behind NDA. Creators were going to get access. So I wasn't a part of any of the first stuff whatsoever, but I was invited to the creator like Discord thing to get an alpha key. But I wasn't really sure how it was going to work at first, because it did seem, again, very, very NA focused. And it seemed like out publicly they said like, oh, it's only NA for the closed alpha. But then internally they seem to say something along the lines of, you can still get in, but you might have longer queue times and stuff. And I was confused as to how it's going to work, because I thought, well, we're going to be forced to play NA East or something if we actually play this game. But it seems to just function. There's not like, you can't change it anywhere. There's no way you pick servers or anything like that. So it just seems to, I don't know, it just seems to do it. But anyway, so the whole alpha rollout has been really controversial, because I mean, we'll go back through over these things in more detail in a second, but for broad brushstrokes, people were talking about it. They had that big teaser trailer thing that you've got playing at the moment, where they had various devs and art design people up on stage talking about it for an hour, showed some gameplay, talked about some of their decisions, and then they were going into this closed alpha. But because of the reception to the announcement show, I guess it is, the 1 hour long announcement show, they then decided to remove the NDA so that anybody in the alpha could then stream it and make content about it to showcase it to a broader group of people, to try to reverse, I guess, what was probably kind of a negative. Yeah, it was a pretty negative outlet. I don't know. It was very, very binary. We'll talk it through, but it was very binary response. But I think there was a good portion of the community that was not very impressed with what we saw, and so they're trying to reverse that by opening it out to people to make content. But then the flip side of that is then everyone's desperate to get into the closed alpha. It's not like it's all behind closed doors. People can see people playing, and then people can't get in, and it's becoming quite, I don't know, like, especially now that it's been out for what is like 2 days or something, or 3 days in the closed alpha, and they were giving out codes and stuff, but the codes weren't necessarily going to let you in, because the whole thing just got so confused. It's like, even if you had a code, that was just a chance to get in, like a prioritized chance to get into the alpha. And it's just ended up being a bit of a mess. Like, it's sort of backfiring a bit, I think.
Yeah. I have lots of thoughts, but I guess just like getting anyone caught up who wasn't like on the bleeding edge of the marathon stuff, because I know not everyone's excited for it and whatnot, or even familiar with it. I mean, I think like Bungie had announced some time ago they were working on a game, new IP, Marathon, reviving the old IP, or using that or whatever, because they made previous games like for Apple machines back in like the early 90s. And it was going to be an extraction shooter, and yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because, you have like the Destiny fan base, and they were like pretty much unanimously just like, what is this? Where's my PvE raid dungeon content? I've had the pleasure of learning much more about the Destiny 2 community throughout this like experience, and I find it very endearing. It reminds me a lot of the Tarkov community, or just really any gaming community ways, just how you have like these internal memes and such. But anyways, so fast forward, we had like a few creators maybe like mention it in passing, like, oh, I can't say much, but I've played, Marathon, and it's good, guys, but they got more work to go, etc. And then we got the big reveal, a Marathon official reveal that happened like 2 weeks ago, actually, I think, on the dot. And that was, I mean, there was some cool stuff. Like, prior to this, there was like ARG events that they did, and it really wasn't anything noteworthy, like big details. It was just something to garner. Apparently, Bungie has a lot of experience in this department, and so they learned a lot of like lessons. Like, you can't make things too easy, for example, otherwise it'll get solved in like an hour, because you just have like hundreds of thousands of humans just like typing on a keyboard, and yeah, just like pure volume just solves stuff. I didn't really participate in it, but I had a friend who was like really into it, and I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but they were kind of like they were like stuck on something, and I was like, oh, is it
Oh
Discord
yeah.
related? Yeah, I did mention this. Okay, yeah. So I thought that's kind of
Mm.
cool. Long and short. Eventually, it was like related to like signing up, decrypting some codes for like a Discord invite, but to like a server, which eventually became the Marathon official server. But yeah, I mean, going over I guess the main bulk of the news for Marathon, that Twitch broadcast reveal. There's a really long lead up to the actual event, and where you just had like a bunch of devs sitting around and videos playing, and then a little bit of Q&A from their like production team, etc. And watching it, it was me personally. It just felt kind of mid. I mean, I think the most jarring thing for me was the art style at first, and particularly, I guess, when I saw a lot of the promotional material, and I think there's a little bit of like a memory corruption in my own brain, because I had to go back and watch like the initial trailer slash like teaser they did, which was a lot more
Mm.
cinematic-y, but a lot of the like color palettes and design like looked, did match up. But in my head, I was thinking, why doesn't this look like how I thought it did in my head? Like I was expecting like more like Cyberpunk 2077, but like with like
Mm.
a lot more bright colors, which didn't really line up. But yeah, so the art style was kind of jarring because it also reminded me of the cycle, and I think that's just like the unfortunate reality where you have like fauna and water, and you have like sci-fi domes and blocks and buildings. It's just like very similar to the cycle, just in the nature of that aesthetic. Foreign planet. Humans come to like colonize. Basically, it kind of looks all the
Mm.
same. But mainly the gameplay, I just like wasn't. I don't know. I just was like watching it. I was just like, my speaking to my friend, I got really hyped about the game leading up to this, because I mean he was like on the bleeding edge of everything. Like any detail, he has like his master spreadsheet. Just like absolutely
Nice, full on
feral.
nice guy style.
Yeah, exactly, absolute feral behavior. And so he was telling me a few things, but I was like, okay, this could be really cool. And I just watched it, and I just walked away feeling kind of mid about it. I was just like, eh. And from what I saw, that seemed to be like the general perception. I think the few positive takeaways was like, I really like this art style. And the art style, like, for me personally, had to grow on me a bit, because I didn't really, like I said, I kind of had like a false idea of what it would look like. But
Mm.
now that I've like grown more fond of it, it's like, yeah, I do like it a lot. Someone used the descriptor, um, realistic.
There was one graphic realism that I heard
That's
of.
it. That's it. Yes. Which I had to look that up, because I took that literally. Like, oh, you mean realistic graphics? That's not right.
Mm.
But I had to look it up, and it's like this blend of like, I don't know, like sharp edges, almost like artists sketching, but then incorporating like a very real life look to it. It's very interesting. We're looking at some of the examples. It's like, oh yeah, I totally do see that. And then you got this whole like 8-bit style, invaders, 80s arcade graphics to like the UI and icons and stuff that I also just like really like. And then like scattered throughout the textures, you'll just see like QR codes, basically. Like that's what I just call them. Like I really like that too. So yeah, the art style is definitely grown on me a lot, but the reception did seem very mid at best. Maybe a bit more on the negative side. I feel like they're in a spot where, Bungie fans slash Destiny fans don't want this game. They're like, "Where's my Destiny slot at?" And then Tarkov fans don't want this game because it's not Tarkov. You know what I mean? It's just like there's just like anything that's not Tarkov slash hyper realistic. It feels like to me, anyways, just gets like the instant reject
Ah,
button.
I don't know. I think there's always going to be some people like that, but I think there's more to it than that. And I think there's a lot of the criticism is fair. I think it is very, very fair. Let's like even okay. So let's continue to talk about the showcase to start with, right? So I feel like the showcase really missed the mark in many ways.
Yeah.
Because they started with, it was kind of like in-game. Here's what the in-game combat kind of looks like, sort of thing, which is fine, but as I streamed that and covered the actual the reveal, and at the time I was kind of like, this is all well and good,
right?
But we don't know anything about the skills or the guns or anything like this, so we can't really tell what we're looking at here for a start. And secondly, the actual combat within an extraction shooter is probably one of the least interesting parts of an extraction shooter game. It's like the minimum benchmark. You can't have an extraction shooter game without combat, but that's kind of like being like, oh, look at our wonderful new game. It has the settings menu or whatever. It's like you have to it has to be there, right? You can't not have it. It has to be there. So it's just a bare minimum that needs to just be in the game to even make it function as a game like that. So the combat's sort of not that interesting, and especially the I'm shooting at you, you're shooting at me, and one of us dies bit of it. It's just not that interesting. The interesting part of extraction shooters is, as we always talk about, with the loop, right? It's like after somebody kills them, what then happens? Does the loot actually matter? Who's getting out with it? How hard is it to get out with it? What do you do with it afterwards? Where's the driving force to get back in again? Like, none of that was covered in any of the gameplay whatsoever, really. Then they did a lot of talking about various bits and pieces about the game. Some of it just was a bit like fluff filler. Some of it was talking about art style and design directions and stuff like that. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. And for the record, I'm actually one of the people that quite likes the design as well. The community is very split on the design. Some people like it, some people don't. That's fair enough. It's personal preference as whether you like it or not. I'm a big sci-fi fan, and I quite like it. There's lots of people who want to just like nitpick at it and be like, well, this doesn't make sense because because it's a futuristic setting, whatever. And I'm like, look, you just got to give them some creative license, right? You just let them make the worlds. Just invest in the worlds. Don't be too. I feel like you can. Like, the game mechanics is one thing, but being critical about about some of the art decisions, you either like it or you don't. But I try to just like relax on art decisions, because it's like if it doesn't practically mean anything in the game, it's not going to ruin my immersion because because this isn't my vision of 2850 or whatever. Like who the frick knows, right? So you I don't know. I tend to be pretty lenient on that stuff. For what it's worth, I do quite like it. The Tron style graphics. It's interesting. I'm not so sure about the Robloxy kind of guns, which a lot of people have talked about. But again, they're just models. They can be changed. It doesn't really matter. Even if they don't, it's not going to be make or break. It's like first impression. Go, oh, that's a bit strange, and then I'll probably never think about it again afterwards once you're used to it, right? But then there were certain questions within the actual kind of dev chat. They were taking, I don't know, maybe half posed, sort of curated questions from chat supposedly, and some of them just made me worry more than others. There's one in particular that I keep talking about, and if people have been in my streams, you'll probably have heard me talking about it. Was they were like one of the sort of lead designer was asked, why does loot matter in this game? Like, why do I care?
Yeah, I remember that question.
Yeah, and he answered the question at surface level, being like, well, the loot matters. So I mean, there were actually two of them. So I went back and watched it this morning because I'm trying to put a video together about the marathon, but I'm trying to come with a different perspective, not just the same as everyone else. Don't want to just do a review first impressions video. So this part I think is really important. And they talked a little bit about how the loot matters. Contracts are a bit different to loot because you can get a quest done, but then you can still die if you've done the quest. You still did it, so you still get progression. But then with the loot, you're trying to get basically permanent upgrades over time by upgrading your character through the faction. You can upgrade stuff like how much stamina you've got, like your loot speed, and things like that. And I was like, that's not interesting enough. And then the other guy who was like the main designer was talking about it, and he said, it's to meet the challenge of the world. The harder contracts require more equipment, or there's going to be, I guess, like big POIs with lots of enemies and all this kind of stuff, and so you're going to need the better kit to get in there. You won't be able to just do it with the basic kit. And I'm just like, okay, sure. And yeah, what else, right? That's like
Yeah.
that's the extraction shooter. What, like, if that isn't in the game, it isn't an extraction shooter game. So that's kind of like the basis, right? Be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, why does this FPS matter? We've got guns, we've got bullets, and you get to shoot at each other. It's like, I don't care. Like, yeah, I know, but that is literally, again, that's the flaw. You have to meet the flaw first. Where's the unique selling point? What are you
Is
doing
that
differently to the other extraction shooters? And the question that I wanted them to answer that they didn't answer was, and this is the most important thing in my opinion, is why should we progress and loot and explore in your game and not all the other games? Why should I do it in this game and not Tarkov? Why should I do it in this and not Hunt Showdown? Why not Grey Zone Warfare? Why not Marauders? Why not the Cycle? Obviously,
which
that's defunct
is
now, but
like another way of saying what's your X factor? What's the thing that makes
yeah.
me want to pick this game over, etc.?
Yeah, exactly. And I just don't think in 2025 you can get away with like the cookie cutter extraction
Yeah.
shooter format and say, why should I play this game? Oh, because you're basically saying because it's an extraction shooter. It's like that isn't good enough. I'm sorry, it isn't good
Yeah.
enough. And that already made me really concerned
Mm-hmm.
about it after seeing the gameplay and being like, yeah, there's shooting, yeah, there's looting, yeah, there's extracting, yeah, there's upgrades. Like, why does any of this stuff matter? And I mean, I don't know how much we want to like jump around and skip ahead, but after playing it a little bit as well, I've probably played 6 hours now, 7 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't say that I necessarily feel that much differently than I did listening to their conversations in the first place. Now, I'm trying to be as fair as I can, and I've been told by a
Well,
lot of people that I am being very fair. But I've only played a bit. I don't really know,
uh-huh.
what the full thing is. But the game is, regardless of whether or not these things get better in the future, the game currently is doing a very, very bad job of showing me why I care about what's going on, why I should continue to, put 10, 20, 30, 40 hours into this game to get to the end of the
Right.
progression. Like, what is there to actually achieve? I think the thing is in Tarkov kind of can get away with it because we've all been through the cycle like 14 bloody times. So we know what is at the end, right? And it's fun to get geared up and you know where you need to go. And there's like, there's end game stuff and you become the guy, and that's like partly it. You have access to all the things and it's cool. But Tarkov kind of also is benefiting from the fact that it was one of the first, and
Yeah,
so we
exactly.
all know what to do, right? You can't just do the same thing again and expect it to work. And I had exactly the same criticism of Grey Zone when it came out, was that you can't. I don't want to do the same Tarkov questing system all over again.
Yeah.
And Marathon's sort of falling into a trap straight away because there's you spawn into a raid and then you extract. It's like the basic mechanic, like the regular
Mm-hmm.
one. There's loot there, there's upgrades. There's no hideout. You kind of upgrade yourself instead, but I don't know. Like maybe there's more to it, but I think they need to do a lot more. Like there's things that I can see that they could do better, and they need to do those things. Otherwise, I just don't know where this is going to go. Especially on it might be good on console to be honest, because they don't actually have that many alternatives. But someone's first extraction shooter, they might actually quite like it, honestly. But on PC, I just don't think this is going to go anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, let me play a devil's advocate in this sense for a couple of things. So think I think for me, part of the reason why I felt similar to you from like watching the gameplay is like I felt like it was such a big, broader review. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is an extraction shooter, great, but like, what's the X factor, right? And
Mhm.
I had a friend offer me a couple different things, but before I get to that, I do think there is something to be said for what you're sort of like hinting at or, suggesting or whatnot is I do think they are being very intentional and targeting, instead of trying to like acquire Tarkov customers, if you will, they're just trying to acquire new customers who aren't already in this market, if that makes sense. Talking about it in a very like business sense. It's like they don't want to, convert any Tarkov mains over. That's not their primary goal. If they do, great. But their primary goal is to take the people that are playing like Marvel Rivals and like Overwatch and like, Destiny, like these other like popular live service games that are on like consoles, multi-platform, and they're trying to like acquire new people because if you're like, let's say you're 12 years old, okay, you got your Xbox whatever or PlayStation whatever, I don't even know these days, but and you're playing Fortnite with your friends, right? And because that's the game that everyone's played, it's free to play, whatever. but you've never played an extraction shooter, and then suddenly this new game comes out, and it's like, this is a new experience, you guys. And the general, I feel like a lot of people sort of look at this who are like not super familiar with it and be like, oh, this looks like Apex, but it's not a battle royale. But it's like kind of like that, It's like you got the hero things, and then you go in and you loot, kind of like a battle royale, but just no ring, and you can leave whatever, and you fight AI, but you also fight players, and it's like, it's just like there's a little bit of an appeal to people who are already kind of like familiar with some of these ideas, like, oh, PvE, I like that. Oh, looting, I like that. And then you have these newer elements, is like, oh, like, why do I lose everything when I die? Oh, why is there PvP? This is like a hybrid game. This is like weird, like these foreign ideas. And I think the approach from Bungie is like, we see there is a market for this thing, but how can we bring it to like a more broader audience? Because like when you talk about Tarkov and accessibility, like you need like a $2,000 gaming PC just to play Factory. I mean, not really, but you know what I mean. It's like you need a computer, and let me remind you, I've been looking at GPU prices. They are not looking good right now. It sucks right now. God, I hate the market. But PC gaming is not cheap compared to like buying a $500 console. And like, who doesn't have a monitor or a TV to put it on? And yeah, it's just like that from that point of view, accessibility is hard. But then you got like Tarkov itself, accessibility has never been its strong suit, right? So I felt like they are intentionally targeting a broader audience. Now, the for me, what I was told the X factors could possibly be was, and this will be a little bit of a divergence, but I'll start with the one that I'm not so keen on, that I think is a lot more harder for them to do, but maybe actually not. That is the story / lore / world building. So like, I'm not a Destiny person, but like when I've listened to like various people talk about Marathon and referencing their previous games that they played, like Destiny, for example. And they're like, hey, do you remember like the Traveler? Do you remember like X, Y, and Z thing? Like, oh man, that was so crazy and awesome. And I'm just like listening to it like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but apparently you guys love this stuff. And like, it's like, I don't know. It's like foreign nebulous to me, but like, I believe these people and their enthusiasm. So apparently Bungie is really good at doing storytelling and like having these compelling stories. And I think they're going to try to integrate that experience into Marathon. However, the thing that concerns me about that is the feedback that I've heard from people that have played the game is like, none of that stuff is really in there yet. Like the barest of bones are there, but like this is something, and that they explicitly said are like, we want this game to be a game that you will build with us. And like, on paper that sounds great. Like that is such a great like marketing phrase, like a very like corporate thing you would say to your customers. But in reality, and this is to kind of tie into another point, is like, we don't know. We've heard that they're gonna say that they said the pricing for this game is gonna be a premium price tag. And so people are guesstimating like $40. And the reception to that has been mostly negative, and I think that's fair because the game looks like a free-to-play game. Like, I'm just sorry, it has that look, and then you're gonna try to sell me $40. Now, I tried to be like, you know what? Why does Tarkov get a pass and every other game that comes out doesn't get a pass? And I think maybe there's some merit to that. However, I know what you guys are going to do. As soon as this thing launches, you're going to have like 5 bajillion skins and battle passes for me to buy, and you're constantly going to like ping me about it. So I'm sorry. I'm going to feel really I'm doing a very charitable thing by buying this game. Presumably it's $40. And then you're telling me that we're going to build this thing together, and that sounds all great and wholesome, but like, I don't know.
That means we're going to build it and you're going to buy our skins.
It just feels like you're asking so much from me. You know what I mean? And it's like, if it was free to play, that would be such an easier sell for me personally. It's like, yeah, you know what? We are gonna build this thing. This thing's gonna be awesome. But yeah. So I kind of went
Yeah,
all over the place. But what give you some
so that
time to
was the first
respond?
one. That was that. Yeah, that was your. That was the first point, which was about the
Yes,
lore.
thank you. Yeah.
Um, so so this is the thing, and this is where I get really, really torn because
Mm-hmm.
after the ARG, I was like, I probably should have a look more into this game and start understanding a bit more about it. And I talked a bit about it on stream, and some people were like, oh, there's the old marathon games. You can go and play them. You can go play them for free. They're on Steam. There's 3 of them. There's like Marathon 1, Marathon 2, Durandal, and
Yeah.
Marathon Infinite or something. There's like 3
Something.
games, something like that. But like upon a cursory inspection, they're all
Uh-huh.
1995 era Doom style
Right.
games, which are very very old. And I was like, oh, actually, I'm not sure. And then I quickly looked up, like, because some of the old games were really quick to finish. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, how long does this take? And it's just like each one takes like 8 hours maybe to
Mm.
complete. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do a full day to complete all
Right.
3 of these things in anticipation just to understand the law. So I was like, okay, fine, whatever. I'll watch some videos instead. So I watched some videos of the old marathons and to get into the lore and stuff. And this is the part that like I find really confusing about this
Mm-hmm.
game is that the more I read, and I'm a big sci-fi fan, so the more I
Mm-hmm.
read and the more I watch and the more I see and hear about what's happened in the past and the story that they're kind of picking up on, the more I like it. I really love the lore of this game. I love the lore
Yep.
of the universe they've built. Like beforehand, right? They've like barely even explained that. If I hadn't read anything, I would still probably have no clue that the marathon is actually a spaceship. I
Mm-hmm.
would have thought that was just the name of the video game,
Right.
and I
Right.
did for ages. I thought it was just a take on runners and extracting. Like I had no clue that it was got anything to
Yeah.
do with anything, right?
Right.
And it's like, oh, the whole background to this thing is that Earth is colonizing this
Mm-hmm.
star system, and they've built this ship called the Marathon into Deimos, one of Mars's moons, and they've sent that off, and it took like 300 years to get there. And then the people have gone to colonize the planet. But then there's an alien invasion, the aliens attack, and then like in the original games, you're like basically fighting back against the aliens called the Four. And it's just like where is any of this in the game right now? Like if they want it to be lore based, like where is any of this stuff? Because once you read some of those things and see some of what's happened in the past for this game, you're supposed to be there 100 years later. It then makes the cinematic trailer, which is absolutely insane, by the way.
Yeah.
That it makes that make more sense. You actually understand what is actually happening, and then when you're down on the ground, it actually explains some of the art style too. Some of the criticisms that
Mm-hmm.
people have about the art style, being like, "Oh, all of this stuff, it kind of looks like." I don't know. People have said lots of different things, but like, Blender placeholder assets or prefab, whatever. And I'm just like, well, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's all like 3D printed stuff from the colony. Like it all makes more sense once you know more about the lore. But there's no real intro. It's just like, oh, here's some factions and talk to these AI heads, and they want you to go down and get some stuff off the planet. Like it does mention it, but it doesn't. It really needs to like lean into it a lot more to make you care about the world. And this is one thing that I find really important. And thinking about, well, why does it matter in EFT? Because we don't know anything about what's going on in Tarkov. But there's a lot of people who talked about this, and I definitely think this is true. That there is a realistic games, although they are more constrained in what they can do. Like Tarkov is constrained in a design way by the grounded realistic setting. You can't just suddenly add an energy shield in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your artistic license is a lot more limited. But what it does do is it gives people an automatic frame of reference. The world itself is
Yes.
already intuitive. It's made up of things that we're familiar with. And so you
Right.
can drop a player into the middle of Tarkov. The game is called Escape from Tarkov, and then you turn up in a city. You already know what you're trying to do. Like
Yeah.
it's automatically obvious what you're trying to do. Right? You're trying to escape the city, and you've just been placed there, irrespective of how the game flows or whether there's no end game or whatever afterwards. You kind of already know what you're supposed to be doing. And the problem with sci-fi games, and the cycle also suffered from this quite a bit. And I make a lot of analogies with the cycle with Marathon because they're similar in many ways. Actually, is that you have to do a lot more work to get you or the player invested in that world when it's not familiar, because you don't know what any of these things are, right? Like in a realistic environment, you can pick up a gun, and even if you're not a gun person, you can broadly understand what these things are. You pick up something and it's a scope and stuff. You're just like, okay, I understand what these things are, and I understand what the landmarks are and what whether they look more or less dangerous or whatever. You get this instinctive feeling. Whereas in a game like this, you don't know like how powerful is my character actually? You know, I've got an energy shield. What does that actually mean? You know, what do the guns do? What's the power of the guns? Are the bots like indestructible? Will they die really quickly? Like you've no idea, right? So the player has to learn all of this stuff. So it's not as easy to onboard somebody into a sci-fi world than it is into a realistic world, and so they have to do a lot more work to get you invested, and they have not done that. Genuinely, they have not done that, and
Yeah.
it's bad. And even Jesse talks about this because he was at the Bungie studio. I listened to his take on it, and you know, there's all this backstory and lore and stuff, and he said, yeah, that's like really cool. But even he was like, they've not done anywhere near enough to get people invested in that, because that really adds the question is, why should I play your game over other games? And it's funny, it's not even like, it's not necessarily just pure mechanics, because we're talking about lore here and stuff. So much about these games is feel, like the feeling of the game. And there's another game that I keep talking, every time we have these conversations, 2 games pop up all the time, or 3 games. Apex Legends, which is one I've played a bit, and the gameplay is similar, fine. The Cycle, because those games are actually super close for many reasons. And then the other game, which I love to reference, because we're talking about unique selling point of these games, where's the X factor, and a game that is technically an extraction shooter that has a huge twist on it is Helldivers 2. It's also a Sony title, it's also $40, but people were absolutely happy to play that, and there's battle passes, and no one cared. It was fine, because it is technically an extraction shooter, but no one thinks about it like that, because it doesn't play like any other extraction shooter, partly because it's PvE, but also because of the world build, like the stupid cinematic cutscene when you load into the game, like the
Yes.
fake ad for joining the military, like all the gung-ho flag planting and everything, right? The setting is just like, it's set, it's made already, right? Like
As soon as
you
you
already know what the
play
deal is.
an hour, you already know what this game's about, and you get it. Like, you only need to play an hour, and that's like included in the tutorial and videos, and you get it. And it's like, now I understand why you guys were begging me to buy this game. It's like, I get it. I'm having a good time. And I played that for like, God, we played that for like 3 months nonstop, and occasionally we'll go
Yeah.
back and play it. And yeah, I don't regret anything about purchasing that game or any of the battle passes that I bought because of FOMO.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that was a great experience.
And like in a sort of meta sense, like outside of the game sense, the progression in Helldivers is actually very straightforward. You know, a lot of what holds that game in is that the game is actually just very good, for a start. So, you know, we can't take that away and be like, well, you know, this is, you know, that's an intrinsic part of the experience. But like one of the things that they've done very well in that game is you've always got something progressively to work on. You know, there's quite large amounts of, you know, the special resource samples that you need to gather, but it's it's very straightforward. There's only 3 different types or something, and you know, you go and gather enough of them, and then you can choose which thing you're permanently going to unlock. So you've always got that sort of slow progressive
big picture.
You know you're working towards something in the long run. And I think that's one thing that these guys are really missing here, is that what am I actually working towards? I know I'm working on my own character, and that's one of the things that you get from the factions. Rather than a hideout, in the factions, you've got upgrades that you can buy through them. And so there'll be things like extra lines of stash. You can unlock things to purchase basically from the traders. It's kind of how it works, right? So you kind of get certain resources, and then that unlocks the ability to buy grenades from the trader, or a bag from the trader, or whatever. And then you've got other things that are personal to use. You like more stamina and that kind of thing that you get over time. But I feel like they could really do more stuff, and game doesn't necessarily need to be linear. It doesn't need to be like more structured in like a linear fashion to say, oh, this is what you're doing, and you take these steps and then you get there. Like Tarkov isn't linear in that way, but you kind of get the idea that, okay, I need to get more loot and get better gear, and then you see somebody with good gear and you're like, how do they get that stuff? Like, where do they even get those things from? And it's that process of achieving and acquiring those things that makes you carry on in Tarkov. Like, I was sort of expecting them to be of the sort of form, you know, I'm just like imagining a scenario, you know, you've got these little short tasks to do, but it's all on the bigger, longer term progression task line to get to the marathon ship. Because apparently there is a level on the marathon ship, but as a player who's sort of 6 or 7 hours in, the marathon ship is not really mentioned. It's not spoken about really at all. I only know of its importance because I've looked into the backstory. I would have no clue that we could even get there. You know, you want to dangle. I think they should dangle that carrot in front of players and be like, you know, your goal ultimately is to get onto the marathon ship and do whatever, but we've got to do this stuff on the ground because, I don't know, it's encrypted or it's secured or whatever. You got to gather these like data keys, and you get like enough data keys, you can go up there or something. I have no idea, right? So it's something bigger than just Like
Right.
right now, you're basically like you're a disposable shell suit that goes down to make money for
Yes.
megacorps.
Yeah.
Like it isn't a very good drive to make people want to go and play.
I think that's coming from a Tarkov perspective, and I think what they were trying to do initially was we just need to sell people on the idea of extraction shooters without scaring them off. Because it's like, yeah, I mean, I watched a few different like Destiny people or like,
Mhm.
non Tarkov people talk about their experience with like the closed playtests they did and share their feedback and stuff. And I looked at the comments and a lot of them were like, so you want me to play this game and then lose my loot? Like question mark? Like that doesn't make any sense. Because they're coming from like Destiny where like you keep your loot, you know what I mean? And it's like there's
Mm.
this meme
Yeah, it's like an
within
RPG type thing instead.
let's say again.
But it was like an ARPG where you have your kit and then you
Exactly.
die. You don't lose your stuff.
Yeah, I mean I didn't realize this, but now I know it's like Destiny is World of Warcraft, but for first person shooters. Like that's essentially the game, is what that is. And that's like cool. Like they were able to bring that to a new market because you didn't have that previously on like consoles, especially. So I think they're trying to do that, but getting back to the comment section of that YouTube video, one of the funny things I saw is like that I had to learn about was someone had said they can't like you can't even get a Destiny player to like get rid of their loot from 8 years ago that they haven't brought out of their vault, and they expect us to like want to play this game, which I asked my friend. I was like, what does this mean? And he just responded with laughter because he's like, yeah, basically they've like had to do so many updates to keep making your vault, like your storage, bigger because people don't want to delete loot from 8 years ago that could one day get buffed and be like a meta build on like the internet, like just be popularized. It's like, so yeah, it's just like this funny thing. But I think that was their goal, is like, can we show the general thing and like familiarity of like, oh look, you got heroes. Oh look, you loot, you shoot stuff, you do things together, and like it's tense, it's fun. Look at your favorite streamers having fun. Can we do that to get people like interested and excited about it? As far as like, you know, the average gamer, I guess, not like but I think the problem is that then you have like this Tarkov audience and these Tarkov creators are constantly giving their feedback, and it almost feels like some of these things are at odds. Like apparently, when they first played the game, the TTK was like extremely high, and also you couldn't even do PvP because you were constantly like battling for your life at PvE. Like they would just constantly die to bots, and since then they've tweaked all that. But like you can kind of see how that the design has shifted, where maybe perhaps initially they wanted it to be more like heavily PvE focused with like PvE as like a very small side activity. Like the main gameplay challenge was fighting bots and using all your resources, mag dumping them to to do the loop. But let me before I get too far on a tangent, let me jump back to the second thing that's
X
supposed to
Factor.
the
Yeah.
second X factor my friend explained to me, which I was not aware of, and for me this one is exciting, and that is the build crafting. So essentially in Destiny, there's this like big build crafting stuff, which is common for MMOs, and yeah, it makes sense. Like you just got like all these like effects and multipliers, and you like build something cool. So they're trying to go for a similar thing here, which I think is interesting. And like for example, I'll just drop a few examples. As you said, there was one that like allows you to loot faster, and there's like these weird because you got like attachments, and you got like your character, which you got like implants and different sort of like attachments. And I think there's something there, at least for me, because that's been one of the things that I felt has been really like dry in Tarkov and in like Tarkov clones, if you will, is like, in the Tarkov clones, it feels like there's not enough innovation. And then in Tarkov itself, it feels like there's not enough build crafting. Like you kind of just like are a universal soldier, and
Mm.
your build crafting is just your economy game. Do you want to? It's basically just comes down to optimizing. do you want to optimize or do you just want to be the ultimate soldier? And that's like your two main choices and in betweens, if you will. You know, how much of a universal soldier do I want to be? You don't really get to like, you know, you could do like meme stuff perhaps, but it's just like it doesn't feel like I get to incorporate some type of particular strategy layered on top of like the loot economy, right? Which is like, I mean, we talked about this a million times, but like, what if Killa had like a golden RPK or whatever, and it had like some special stat modifiers, you know?
Mm.
And you do that with like 500 different things in the game, and then suddenly it's like this collectathon to assemble Exodia. I always reference assembling Exodia. I'll never get old. Um, so with this game in particular, they have something like this, and you can get like you can modify your stats, which is like agility and like resistances and such that like do different things, etc. Again, I'm not familiar with the details. You probably are more than I. But then you have sort of like perks with like, and they're more like they do little things like while your gun is in your, you know, is holstered, you slowly replenish ammo for it. Or whenever you lose your shields, you gain an extra, you know, 15 agility or things like this, just like little perks. And then these are obviously, they use like a classic MMO tier system where it's like white, green, gold, purple. I'm going in the wrong order. White, green, blue, purple, gold rarity, right? And at the highest end, you got like really, you know, if instead of like, I've heard this talked about by a few different game devs slash designers. It's like instead of going like vertical, like tall with your progression, like what if you went wide, where it's like instead of you being like linearly getting stronger and power increase as you go up, what if you like linearly pivot into a specialized idea? You know, like oh, I want to be
Yeah.
like a little loot goblin, so like I loot 100% times faster than my teammates, and you know things like this. And I really enjoy stuff like that. So apparently, there's a lot of that in the game. Like some of the more like hyper rare stuff, like the golden things. One of them is like base. If you're the character Void, which is like the stealth invis guy, your knife will do like extra damage when you like strike out an invis and like poisons them or something. And like, and the general idea with that I think is really cool is because you have like, you know, the way I think of like the hero shooter aspect is like you have sort of like your base that you operate off of, and then you have all the mods and attachments to like augment that, which I think for me that could be really cool because I love like in basically any game that has this type of game design. I love taking something that's like conventionally seen as one thing, like this character is a DPS, and I'm like, can I make this character that's conventionally thought as a DPS into like a support, you know, or like a tank, like something that you probably shouldn't do and probably isn't very good, and like the general broad strokes. But in these few niche things, it's like kind of, it's like maybe it's like fine for that. I love doing stuff like that. So I'm hoping and praying that that is the case, but I don't know if that's gonna be enough. You know, what are your
Yes.
thoughts?
So that was. I'm glad that you said that as number two because that's the other US. I agree that that's like the other. I agree that's the other USP for this game. That's the other X factor thing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the unique reason why you'd want to play this is for build crafting, and they've talked about it a bit. They talked about it in the dev cast thing as well, and I was still a little concerned based on what they were talking about because again, it was that thing of they were saying like, yeah, the basic ones, you know, you get a bit more stamina, a bit more of this, a bit more of
Mm-hmm.
that, faster looting speed or whatever. And then like, you know, at the top level, like it can completely change your character. And like the example that he used was like, rather than having your double jump as glitched, like now it's a triple jump. I'm just like, man, that's so lame. Like, why is no? Like, what? That's like, yeah, I guess maybe that sort of matters from a general kind of like tactic sense, but like
Right.
one sec. I've done something. I've done something horrible to my audio. I can't hear you for some reason.
Uh oh. Looks
Oh
good on
no,
my
there we go.
end.
I fixed it. There we go. I fixed it. I fixed it. Um, Yeah, and I was just like, man, is that really like the coolest thing that you could think of to say? Like, of all the things that you've made a double jump into a trip, that's like game changing. Like, oh, this is
Well,
so wild. Like, I almost feel like, okay, so I've got the screen up now. That's what I was like tinkering around with in the background.
mm-hmm,
So I've got the screen up in a minute. So you've got basically 3 implants,
mm-hmm,
one for head, one for torso, one for legs, and then you have 2 cores, which are basically just sort of generic implants. And they go from pretty basic stuff up to some decent things. Now, I probably don't have anything particularly good. I always, with these systems, because I've never played any of these for any particular at the time. Is it green and then blue? I always forget which
yes,
way the rarity goes. It goes green and then blue and then purple, right?
yep,
Yeah. So I've got a couple of these ones that are just in here. So you've got things like this one's called On a Roll. Defeating enemies grants a stacking bonus to your agility up to a maximum of 30. Being downed or killed resets the bonus to 0. And your agility, I'm still like figuring out exactly
mm-hmm,
what it does. Because so agility increases your movement speed and your jump height. You've got like a set of different stats: self repair, agility, heat capacity, hardware, firewall, finisher siphon, loot speed, and revive speed. And so, but the thing about this is that you start the game with none of them. You get none at all. And there's basically 5 things that you can add, which is fine. But until you get to the better ones, so some of the better ones give you stuff specifically for a particular runner, which is kind of where it gets more interesting, I think.
mm-hmm.
So it'll be something specific. I don't know if I still have the one. I might have just used it. But yeah, so like the second upgrade ones, these are like some of the implants ones. Is this, which one's this? Oh no, that's the shield slot one, isn't it? So you get stuff like +1 shield slot. There's one called Ping V2. So they're called like V1, V2, depending on which grade they are. Marginally increases weapon handling and aim down sight speed, but you get your ping duration lasts for longer for whatever reason. Now maybe there's something that gives you synergies with pinging, because that would make sense, right? This would be how it would work in like a MOBA or something, or like an ARPG, like Diablo, where you'd have these builds that they're all based around, whatever. So you might have like, oh, I've got a ping build, so I've got like one that extends the ping time, and then when enemies are pinged, then my team gets extra damage against them, stuff like this. Like that's how it would be.
Yes.
But I feel that if this is really important, this is like a really important part of the build crafting system, and an important part of the game. I feel like it's a shame that you just start with it just empty. I feel like there should be like level 0 cores or something, so you can at least like lean one way or the other to start with, and just get a try. Like it doesn't necessarily need to be meaningful for free or whatever. But I think you should start. I think you should have to build your starting character with some basic modules that are just like they're just free, and then you can upgrade them to other stuff as time goes on. Because to just have it be empty, like I've played, because you lose them when you die, right? So I've played most games with maybe 1 core in out of, or one of these implants and cores out of 5, and then the only times I've had more than that is like if I found them in the actual raid itself. Because I'm still just like not sure. It's that the classic extraction shooter thing of like, well, is it like, are these good or are these not good? Like, should I just use them and then die with them because that's inevitably what's going to happen because I'm new? Or like, is that actually going to give me a significant boost? Like, this is like a white one, but like, while at critical health, your heat capacity is increased. It's like, okay, that's good, but like, how often am I in critical health? Like, I mean, most of the time I'm either at full health or I'm dead kind of thing. So it's a bit tricky. I feel like they could do a lot more with it, and then only having 5 feels like it limits it a lot. Like, there could be like I can think of so many more cool systems. There's like other games like Dark Tide, which I played, which has got like a full skill tree that you can spec different ways down it, or you could have like this system but bigger, where you can add like maybe you could find like pieces of code or whatever that like you can add extra stats to other existing modules and stuff like. But it doesn't seem like there's any of that there. So without knowing what comes in the future, it's hard for me to say. So this is why I don't want to be too critical so early on this. So maybe the build crafting will be great, but the initial experience isn't that good because they kind of limit what they say is one of the features of the game. So you don't really even get to understand like what I don't really understand what the power of this is. Like most of the stuff that I see in here feels pretty like
non-impactful.
Useless, doesn't really matter. Yeah, just like not that impactful. So like exactly. Like critical health, your heat capacity is increased. Okay, so I can run a bit more while I'm literally dying. You can move and ready your weapons more quickly after using a shield charge. So that was one of the special ones. But it doesn't tell you how much more. Does it actually does it make any actual difference? Is it 5%? Some of the stuff that I saw was like pretty small. Some of the bonuses that you get. It's just I don't know.
I
I'm not.
think
It's hard to know.
I think so. Like to answer your question, provide some sort of feedback in multiple ways. I think it's kind of a multi-layered thing. Like the first thing that me comes to mind is because it is an extraction shooter game and you lose everything upon death. I think that makes the balancing side of things like they want to be careful about how wide you can go because you know how in like some of these games like I never really played half of XL, but my understanding is like you can get a build going where it's just like you know your damage gets amped every time an enemy explodes, and then you get a stacking bonus, and then because it's an explosion AoE and it's interacting with this other thing, it's like you just basically become like a god, and just like I think they want to avoid that because if that becomes, how do you manage that on the economy side? It's like if you're just starting out and you got access to nothing and all you can do is like, oh, I get an extra burst of agility when I'm about to die. Whereas this guy, he just like hits me once and then suddenly he recharges his rocket launcher to 500%. You know what I mean? Because he's got like this crazy
Yeah.
build. The way I put it to my friend is like, I think they're trying to, make the bar as far as how wide you can go, like 50%. Like at the very top end, it's like you can kind of shift your character into like a more niche role. Like the one that came to mind was Void. You can like basically play into like the assassin archetype, where like you stalk someone if you're knife, and then you got all these like knife things. But you can't like take Void from an assassin and turn him into like mage rogue invisible. I summon 5 million skeletons that heal me and my allies. I think they're trying to strike a balance there, and also I think in the balance in terms of like gameplay and fairness. But I think that's the most interesting part because if I'm in a raid though and I find something that changes my build, or I like what it does but I don't have like it's only a part of the equation, right? To assemble Exodia. And then it's exciting because then it's like, wow, I could like save this for later when I want to do like a thick run where I can like utilize this for other stuff. So I like that. But then I also think when you talked about like you can't do a lot early on, I think that sucks. But I also think they probably did it intentionally because they don't want it to be like, a new. If they are indeed targeting like a more broader audience, they don't want to like overwhelm the player. It's like, okay, here's your character. They have these abilities. Go. Because I've been watching like Tarkov players play the game, and a common thing I see is like, oh, I didn't use my X, Y, and Z. I forgot about it. I'm so Tarkov pilled, because they're just.
I mean, I'm like that.
Yeah, so I think maybe I hear you, and I totally would love that, but I think because they're trying to get a more broader audience, they want to keep things, simple and like as elegant as possible. But I think that's a fair criticism as well. As like, I think you should get something to play of just so you can understand what it is these things actually do. Because you're right, when you load into a match and you find a thing, it's like, is this good? I guess I'll use it. Like, but like, is it valuable? I don't know. It's a great item. Like, is this actually doing anything for me? I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think it's just when you pick something up and it's just like, oh, you get 5% extra stamina or something. You're just like, I don't know. I just don't know if that's really. I don't know if that really matters. I just wish that it was more. Yeah, I just wish that you could like kind of play with the system
I agree.
more now. I want to touch very quickly back on what you were saying about like the target market because I find it very curious the strategy that they've gone through for this because like they're Bungie, they want to
Right.
make this thing for more people. I understand that makes more sense. But then they've like brought in like tons of Tarkov creative people to talk about the game, which is okay. But the Tarkov people probably aren't going to like how simplified it is. in many ways. Even things like the weapons building, right? So the weapon crafting is like, I don't even know. The other basic extraction shooters. There's 4 slots, and you put stuff on, and then it can never be removed. Which I actually personally think they'll probably reverse that. But if they're like, oh, build crafting is really important, but you're whatever you do to your weapon, it's locked in now.
I agree. I think that's completely at odds against if build crafting's supposed to be the X factor, which I'm not sure it is, but if that's the case, this is like completely at odds with that.
Yeah, so that's very strange. But anyway, so it's like the Tarkov people are like, oh, the TTK is kind of high, and like I can't it's supposed to be a class-based shooter, but it kind of feels more like a hero-based shooter, especially to start with, because what matters is your set skills and abilities, but then maybe it becomes more class-based later on as you're augmenting those abilities with these cores or whatever to like build your build. So Tarkov people are a bit confused, and there's like, the looting is pretty the looting is pretty, I would say, unsatisfying for the most part. Like some stuff is useful for things, so that's okay, but a lot of the items are just like, this is 300 credits. This is 200 credits. This is 50 credits. And when you leave the raid, it just like auto liquidates them all into cash. And you're like, man, that just feels like DMZ. It's like, why have it there? It may as well just be a stack of money, currency. I mean, yeah, maybe it's placeholders as well, but it's difficult. But I mean, it's hard to have as many items as Tarkov does with all the different uses and the barters and whatever. And they do have barters in this game too. So anyway, so Tarkov players are just confused and don't really know where they stand on this thing. Then you've got your casual people who've not played extraction shooters, who are going to then want to come play this game, but they've made it an extraction shooter, which is not very casual friendly anyway, because you lose your stuff and you die, and then it's $40 or something, or it's going to be $40 to play. So you get to try it really. It's going to, they said it's not going to be full price, but it's going to be premium. So it's you got to pay something. So that's like, okay, are you going to bring people in with it not being free to play? And I just feel like a lot of other people's criticism about this, which I sort of agree with, has been like, well, who's the game actually for? Like, maybe it ends up being for nobody. But I do feel that for console players who like Bungie games, there's a lot of the experiments that we've seen within the extraction shooter genre have come to PC, and on console you don't have that many options actually. You've had DMZ,
it's like Hunt, Showdown, and DMZ. I don't know what else.
The Battlefield one, I think that one probably came. I mean, that game flopped horribly, but I think the Battlefield version probably did come to console too in the launch with that. I don't really know, but there's not that much choice. You haven't had that much choice, right? Those guys have never had the opportunity to play the Cycle. They've never had the opportunity to play Great Open Warfare, Marauders, like all these other games that have come and gone, or it's still brewing. Console guys haven't had a chance for that, so I'm sort of like, I was remembering back to when I was listening to, again, Jesse and Veritas talking about New World. Remember when that came out with the Amazon RPG?
Yeah.
And I played it for about half an hour, and I was just like, nope. And Jesse played it for ages and was just like, absolutely loved it, because it was his first ever MMO. He never played one before, so like that format to him was different and interesting.
Yeah.
And I feel that this could really hit with console people who've never played,
I think so,
but want a polished game. This is supposed to be an alpha, and I only had one very minor bug. And I know people are reporting others as well, but like I only had one very minor bug. Like it's supremely polished for an alpha game, which it's very easy to take for granted when you're playing it, because you don't think about the bugs that you never see, right? Where like most other games have had horrendous bugs all over the place, especially extraction shooters, and are made by small teams. So Bungie knows how to just put together a coherent game that actually plays functionally, right? They're in the business of doing that on a grand scale, so they've productionized that process, and so maybe that will actually work really well with console people. I don't think it's going to take the PC market by storm. I don't, and I
agree.
Unless they really change a lot of stuff, or some things become apparent later down the line, or the story ends up being really good, like the narrative ends up being amazing, and whatever way they want to do it, I can't see that attracting the PC market.
I think they're gonna have a hard time
we've had
with that. I mean, it's so early; it's like way too hard to tell. But I think you're spot on. I think I think of my younger brother who plays console games with his friends. I could see them playing something like this because it is a new experience. That's like ultimately for me, it's like kind of a win, no matter what, because like at the end of the day, this just means more people get to experience an extraction shooter. And I mean, like, sure, it's not Tarkov, but like they're still gonna get the bare bones idea of that experience, and that's something like I can relate to them with now, you know. Whereas like
Yeah.
when if I'm like speaking with another gamer and they're like, "Oh yeah, I play video games," it's like cool, you know. But I just like automatically just like when we start talking about our favorite games, I just don't even bother mentioning Tarkov because it's just like I know, like if they've already mentioned, like yeah, I like playing, you know, I don't even know, Far Cry the Zero Dawn of Time or whatever the latest one is. I don't know, Far Cry 7 and at point 5. It's like, oh yeah, I've played those games before, but it's like I'm not gonna mention Tarkov because it's like, oh yeah, it's like this extraction shooter is kind of like a battle royale, but it's not. It's made by Russian devs, and it's like really buggy, but like it's a great game. It's like they're gonna be like, oh okay, this guy's crazy, honey, come over here. You know what I mean? It's just like, but now that we have something, it's like now I can like relate to them. It's like back when PUBG was like the hot thing on PCs. It's like any console
Mhm.
player had no idea. Whereas nowadays, it's like everyone knows what a battle royale is. I mean, you can't not know what it is. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I do think it is going to be more console-y, but I
Yeah.
don't think that means it's like an automatic avoid for me at least. It's just I'll just have to
Yeah, no, for
see.
sure.
I mean, I guess it's
Yeah.
just like, well, was there something you're gonna say? Go ahead.
No, just like, yeah, exactly. We just gotta wait and see what how they do it, because that's the thing. I don't want to consign this game to the grave early, because
Right.
there's no need to do that. And I've also been trying to be fair about it in the way that this probably is more relevant in a sec when I talk about some solo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go into Tarkov for the first time, there's a lot of things that you can't do that you can do later. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of need to be
Say
experienced with the
more.
game to get the most out of the game. And so playing 6 hours and then being like, I'm not sure about this, is fine. But I kind of want to keep an open mind and see if there's more coming later, right? Like, I think there's ways to smooth the new player experience and kind of give people a taste of what's to come without spoiling it necessarily. And there's so much. They've even teased about it, right? Because in this cinematic trailer, they had some of the aliens in that. So, and that was like up on the marathon ship. So there's more to come. I almost worry that there's basically two ways that this goes. It's either like they don't really know what they're like, kind of building it like in the sky, which a lot of people have said that's actually the way they've done many of these games. So they just kind of
Mm-hmm.
don't really know where they're going to end up. They're just sort of doing it and like adjusting as it goes on, or they're trying to hide too much stuff, not to spoil things, but at the consequence of kind of making the game not look interesting enough for
I
now.
I think it's a bit of both because one thing I've heard a lot of people talk about is the marathon ship. So apparently there's a third map which they're not allowed to talk about, but
Mm,
they're allowed to mention it. And but basically the general idea is like, you know, I mean, first off, it's like incomplete. It was like very boxy. But the main gimmick or mechanic around it was this incorporates Destiny raid mechanics where like you're trying, and I don't even know what that means, but like you're trying to like solve puzzles and like the map's very interactive, I guess. And you're doing that instead of doing it in a PvE environment, you're doing it in a PvE VP environment. And Berkey said, praised it. I think Jesse praised it. Like Berkey was basically when she got flown out, she was on the plane back thinking, oh my God, they're probably never going to invite me again because I absolutely took a dump all over this game. And then that changed when she was there on like the last day when they played this map because she was like, this is like the stuff. I want more of this. And it reminds me of playing Destiny back in the day, but it's like an extraction shooter and it was amazing. And to me, that sounds really great, and I'm intrigued because I have no idea what any of those words mean. But as you're saying, it's like we're not seeing any of that, and I think that's because A, it's probably not finished. Like they don't know exactly. Like they know that they need to do an extraction shooter, and these are the things you do for an extraction shooter, but they don't
mm.
necessarily know what spice to put in there to really, make it stand out as its own like unique and like thing that like you have to. It's like no, you can't. You're not getting an extraction shooter experience until you've played this game type of mentality. Because right now, I would say Tarkov has that for sure, and that's for a lot of reasons. First to market, unique studio, Eurojank, etc. But like, I don't know. I think that part's interesting to me, and I agree. It feels like that is kind of a detriment right now, but it is early in the game. It's just I kind of want to move on to the part that's been frustrating for me, which is like basically me and my friend have been like hyping each other up because, as I said, I watched the reveal. He got me all excited for it. I watched the reveal with him. I got let down. He was like, "Oh, well, here's things to be excited for. Here's the lore and the build crafting. Like, dang, this is really cool." And then it's like next week is gonna be alpha, close alpha. So signed up for it. Like maybe I'll get in, whatever. Hopefully we get in. And then they pulled this move where basically it got leaked or shared or whatever that some of the executives or people in charge were not feeling so good about the reception from the showcase, which I think is fair because like when I saw the showcase, it just looked like mid-a-thon. Just like very
Mhm.
mid. I mean, the cinematic trailer that playing was like amazing, and I pray that I in part I want the game to do really well because I want them to fund like a TV
More of
series,
those.
like because yeah, this
I
was
don't want to
like
play the game. I want to watch the 10-part series
ex-
in this world.
exactly like
I don't care about the game actually. Like I want to watch the 10-part series. The 8-minute movie was the best part so far about
so
Marathon, hands
good.
down, by a mile. By a mile.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, like graphically it looked great, but like storytelling, like I love this stuff, like dystopian, like all hope is lost, and like existential dread. It's just like my jam, and like cyberpunky sci-fi stuff. Like I love this. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's like it's so good. Like I need to know what happens to Glitch and Void. Like yeah, I gotta know what's up with the photo. Who's Impreg? I just remembered. Were you? I have to talk about this tangent. The community is absolutely insane. Okay, so I joined the Discord, and my friend's like, "Yeah, go to these channels, blah blah." And it's like, "Oh, what faction do I join?" He's like, "Oh, I joined Mida. Just join Mida with me." I was like, "Okay, whatever." And you just get like a little role, and you get like your own little chat. Well, the Discord lore is insane. Each faction has like their own weird little like way of speaking slash existing, and Midas is all about impreg. And
What?
I know male pregnancy. I know, and I'm trying to remember the exact lore of it, but basically, someone was like they mentioned something about impreg or something. I don't remember, and it was like a little bit of like out of context weirdo, and then people just like latched onto it as like this is now our
Mhm.
identity. And there's like so many memes, and now like the lore is like Mida stands for male impregnant youth agency or something. Like just something like it's crazy. I've actually God, I think I had my friend send me each of the each each of the factions like things. I don't think maybe I can't find it. Our Discord logs are so long. But yeah, the I love it. I mean, I have like at least 20 memes gifs shared of just like Mida memes. I'll spare everyone the details, but yeah. As someone says, I love the internet sometimes. Agreed. Anyways, I just had to get that out of my system. Jumping back on track. So, timeline. Devs were feeling a little, or not devs. Leadership was like, oh, reception wasn't good. A little bit panicky. So then they decided we're gonna erase the NDA. Like, we're dropping that, and which means that you now can share and stream your feedback from the game or like you playing the game. So it went from like a closed alpha to like I mean, I guess still like an invite alpha, so to speak. Like I don't know.
Mm.
And at first, I thought that was a really great thing because a lot of people that I heard commenting on this, and I kind of agree with them, is like they were like, yeah, let the game speak for itself. Let the gameplay speak for itself, which I kind of agreed with. However, fast forward Wednesday, spamming my email folder. It's like, okay, I didn't get in. Let me go watch some streamers. I'm watching some streamers play, and mind you too, like during the reveal, they were like handing out keys also through like other streamers. So I played that little mini game for a bit where I had to like type marathon in random people's chats for a chance to win. Didn't win, whatever. Um, so yeah, now watching streamers day one, as you expect, a lot of the Tarkov people are streaming it, other people are streaming it, whatever. And it's like, okay, day two comes around, kind of the same deal. Day three, all hope is lost. I'm not getting in, and I'm just like constantly flooded with people who are like sharing their opinions and feedbacks. And this is like the part that's driving me insane is like the game. It reminds me, I was telling Giga earlier, it reminds me of like Valorant when it was like in the hype cycle, as I like to call it, is like it was in some type of closed alpha invite only state. And you could sign up for it, I think, but a bunch of streamers were like playing it and streaming it. And through Twitch integration, you could link your account and basically do drops for codes. And I played that again, mini game for like a day, and I got fed up with it, and I stopped. And I guess,
Yeah.
and I didn't play the game till like months, maybe even like a year later, till someone invited me to play with them. But I think the frustrating part for me is like it feels like a marketing ploy, and I'll tie it into Marathon in a second, but to use an analogy, it's like imagine, there's a movie, right, that's like being advertised. But you can't actually go and watch the movie, right? But you're just constantly being fed all these reviewers' opinions about it. And it's like, okay, this is like great, but at the same time, it's like, and maybe you have reviewers who you opinion you respect, like you like there a lot, maybe people that you don't respect, people who you don't even know about. But it seems like that's all the feedback that you're getting is these reviewers' opinions and such. And it's like, I want to, as an individual, I want to like, and you can't, and the caveat too is like, you can't actually go and watch the movie. Not even, these people got like special privilege or like special access to, but you can't actually take your dollars and go and do the thing. So it's like, and it's one of these things where when you convert to like video game language, within like video games, you can't just like watch a trailer and like really understand what it's like because this is more of an experimental or experiential thing. And I mean, I guess you could say the same about cinema. It's like, oh, the experience of sitting in the theater and having the TXH sound boom through your ears and watching it, maybe you could say the same, but I feel like in the case of video games, it's a lot more literal. Like you have to experience the gameplay. And it's so frustrating for me watching videos and like people play, but like I can't directly like once I've watched, I guess another example is like once you've played like a certain amount of hours in Tarkov and then you go watch a streamer, you like understand what's happening. Whereas like when you first I remember watching the game, I think it was like Summit and Shroud before I like played the game. Because they were like popular. This was like pre 2019 January or something. And I was like, okay, I don't really know what's happening, but it seems like having fun and it looks interesting. Like I'm gonna try it. And then retroactively, now I have like a much deeper understanding, appreciation of what I was viewing. And for me, it's just been so frustrating because it feels like the feed, like what I'm seeing is just like every internet person in existence who is like an influencer is like playing the game and talking about it, and meanwhile, everyone else just kind of like sitting there and we're just like twiddling our thumbs. And it's like, if it was gonna be, I feel like they did a disservice because, you know, the same amount of people who are playing that are like streaming it. It seems like once the NDA, like I don't have like evidence for this, but it's like they threw out the NDA and then like suddenly just like an influx of streamers are now playing. Whereas like I don't know if that was already the case. Maybe it was, but like I wouldn't know that because I wouldn't see it anytime I open up
Yeah.
my browser, or any social media device. And it's just like so annoying because it's like I just wanna be a person and formulate my own opinions and experience the thing. But I can't do that, and instead I'm just like force fed everyone's opinions, whether they like the game, love the game, whatever. And it's so annoying. I hate this so much. And I swear to God, if they do like, key drops or whatever, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm actually like at a point now where I kind of want this game to fail. Like I'm kind of spiteful. I'm gonna be honest because I hate this, and I feel like it's becoming a trend. They're not necessarily doing the like key drops thing, but I just hate this. It's like this sucks. You guys are like generating artificial hype basically by like limiting access. Oh, it's a closed alpha. But look at your favorite streamers play the game. Look, they're having fun. Yeah, they're whining, but we're working on the game. It's like I want to be able to play it and know what I think. It's so annoying.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think it's an annoying way to go, and yeah, Greyzone is sort of similar in some ways too. They've done stuff
Yeah,
like that in the past, and I have always I've always tried to propose fairness. I don't know. I think if you're gonna do it that way, it needs to be behind closed doors. I think
I think so too.
because otherwise it's just or like have it be a day or something, or even just
Yeah,
let people know when they're actually going to get in. Because to be have it open up and then it's like, oh, and then you maybe are going to get a key and then you've got one, but then that doesn't mean you're going to get in, and you just have to wait, and who knows when you're going to actually get access to it. It's just like really proper like tease people in the wrong way. It's just
exactly.
annoying.
That's the thing. I think that's the key is like you sign up for a chance to get in, and like in my head, I acknowledge I don't want to overhype myself, so I acknowledge that my chances again are pretty low, right? And then I go and see who's got in, who's like a streamer and playing, and it's like nonstop. Almost every Tarkov player is playing and streaming it. And I'm just like, okay, well, maybe they got like, little special privilege because they're gonna like cover the game and whatnot. So like that makes sense. But now it just feels wrong because it's like, well, it wasn't actually a equal opportunity thing. But at the same time, like I understand you would want, you know, your first wave to be. It's a very complicated thing because I can understand them not wanting to just open the floodgates and then having the servers
Yeah,
crash and it be a complete crapshoot. I don't know. It's such a mixed bag for me, and I just and in some ways it's my own fault too for like overhyping myself with my friend. But I just like God. I'm just so tired of seeing everyone's opinions and not be able to formulate my own. Like it's just frustrating. That's it.
I agree. I agree. Did you know that Tau Ceti is a real star system, by the way?
I did
I
not.
kind of was like, yeah, I was like, oh, I was like, I think I've seen that before, and I was like, I looked it up, and apparently it's a very common science fiction setting
Hmm.
because it's one of the closest stars to ours that is very similar in size. So it's a classic, human colonization plot within sci-fi because it actually exists. And I think they're like Tau Ceti 4, and there's like some other planets too. But I think that they're like super Earth type planets. I think, which are they're bigger than Earth, but they're sort of within that same zone. It was just quite I was like I went on a little trip, just being like, oh yeah, it's like the 19th closest star to Sol,
Hmm.
and I'm probably the fifth that's in sort of like G or K class, which is like the ones that are more likely to support life or have like real planets, whatever.
Oh,
So that's a cool little thing, you know. That was a
that
cool
is
little thing.
interesting.
Yeah. And this is the sort of extent of the lore that I ended up like randomly going into in the background as well, because some of it's really good, but I guess because we're on Tau Ceti, we won't find out
Mm.
much about what was going on back at home, because that's like what a lot of the interesting parts of the full story are about. It's like, you know, Mars getting impoverished and all of this kind of stuff in the background. Oh dear. Okay, so
Yeah, I
can you
wanted to
play this game
ask.
solo?
Exactly, yeah. I wanted to ask about Solo because just to lay the groundwork, it seems very intentional. They want this to be basically like a Helldivers experience where you play with your friends in extraction shooter. So it's like teams of 3, squad fill is checked on. I won't say too much. I think like I watched Jesse and Veritas's cast last week and they talked about
Okay.
this, and I agree with a lot of Jesse's points and whatnot. But you can go in solo if you want. And I think just in general, to me, it feels like I'm gonna let you go here in a second, but to me, it feels like the way it's almost like an Apexy vibe in the sense that it's like 3v3, which then lends you a lot of information. Like this is the difference when you play Tarkov. It's like, oh, is there another one? Is there another one after another one? You have that uncertainty, and then also it kind of turns it into a more like esporty competitive environment where it's like you get a pick and it's like we have the numbers advantage, let's go, boom. Like it makes it very like chess like. So I almost feel like that goes against like the average target broad audience you want to pick, because then it just makes it inherently more like, I don't know, esporty. Like things are certain. It's like I have this sort of information and like idealized way to play. So let me stop talking.
Yeah.
Let you say your piece.
Yeah, so I think I mean that's a good background to it. I mean, fundamentally the structure to this, and this is why
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot like the cycle in many ways, is that the cycle had exactly the same problem, except it's even worse in this game, honestly, than it is in any of the other games because of some of the decisions they've made. And I've been trying to because I think I'm going to do something about this in particular, but kind of the way that I see it is that you've got a couple of things and then like a sort of overlay. So you got stuff that a lot of the other extraction shooters have done, which is that there is no friendly fire to start with.
Mm-hmm.
That there are indicators for teammates on, so you can see your own teammates through walls, and they have a reviving mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Like those three things are very anti-solo players to start with, right? It's like one of the reasons why
Right.
Tarkov is so much fairer on the solos versus squad thing. You technically have an advantage in the squads, but because you don't know who's on your team, you have to communicate well. You can accidentally shoot each other. You're not just shown where they are. That means that solos then have an advantage because they can shoot whenever, whoever, and that sort of outweighs the firepower situation from squads. You then also got over the top of that. You've then got the whole backdrop of just like time to kill as a broad thing,
Mm-hmm.
which and this is the reason why I think I sort of referenced it before, but I didn't say exactly why. This game is so similar to the cycle, and it's because you're incentivized to go in these 3-man squads.
Right.
If the time to kill is high relative to other games in this genre, that makes it disproportionately more difficult for solo players to win. Because again, in EFT, the TTK it's a low TTK game, not in all circumstances. It depends on how you're geared, etc. But you can pretty much always hit somebody in the face and kill them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a big sort of stealth element to it. You spot a squad, you can get yourself in the right position, you can take one out. But that kind of methodology just doesn't work in this game because with maybe this is different actually. As you move up the levels and move up with the better weapons, but at least with the starting weapons, you're not going to be killing anybody super quickly.
Yeah.
Um, and so in Tarkov, that would be okay. There's a 3-man over there. I'm one guy here. I get myself into a good position with a good escape route. I pick one guy off, and then I swing round and do a flank or something, and then I can play 2v1 instead. And they're going to be probably locked to their teammate's body or whatever it might be. And you can win in that way in EFT. It's not easy, but you can win in that way. In this game, it's like I mag dump the first guy, get through his shields and all of his health.
Right.
I then need to reload because it takes the full
Mm-hmm.
magazine to kill them, or at least a decent proportion of the mag once you account for misses and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
They then go into the down state where they can still kind of shuffle along the floor. I've then got to reload and reposition. By the time I've repositioned, one of the team has got them up. So that's the first stage. Then the second one is like, I managed to kill them, and then they go down, and then I do actually kill them properly. Well, you're still actually in the same situation, because the one bizarre thing that you've got in this game that you don't have in the others is that you can resurrect anybody at any time, even from the down state. It just takes longer. So there is no permadeath within the raid, so long as you still have a member of your squad alive. And a lot of other games don't actually have this. You either get once or twice, or you have to give something up. Like in Hunt Showdown, I think you have to give up some of your you give up some of your max HP when you've been got up. I think the other person has to. Do they have to give up some of their HP as well when they get you up? I can't remember. Something like that. So you have to give up something. Like, you come back with nearly no health in Marathon, but you can you regen your shields and put your health back on. Like, there is some short-term consequence, but it has no long-term impact on your overall ability to function in that raid or whatever. And so that just makes it so hard for solo players to actually ever do anything. Like, at best, you're going to get a pick on one of them, and then you're just going to have to run away, because if there's three, against a duo, you can at least pick one and then fight the other. Whereas in a three, one of them can push you and fight you while the other person's resurrecting the first teammate that you downed in the first place. And it's such an uphill battle. It's so crazy, And with relatively, I think the TTK, I assumed it was going to be super high. It seems variable depending on what you're doing. Like, the basic guns are not very good. The pistols I found are completely useless. I tried using them even against the AI, and they just killed me. And they're not even that much less. I think the basic pistol's like 75 credits or something, and the assault rifle's like 150 credits. And right now, so I think you start with, I can't even remember now, like 1,000 credits or 2,000 credits, something like that. And I currently have like 9,000 credits. And I've not even survived that much in the latter sort of period. I've been doing solo runs and getting out with a few things. And so it really doesn't seem that much point taking the pistol. I guess it maybe as a secondary, but they're kind of useless. But against like regular players, they don't do that much damage, especially if somebody's got like an upgraded shield module or something. It's a bit like the cycle, where it's just like really, really hard to kill them. And especially as a solo player, even going against two players with like upgraded shields or something, if you've got like white gear, you're just going to lose. And that's different to EFT, because you've got the separation of the different hitboxes. It's like, I just feel like a problem with a lot of these games is that there's no long-term. All of this stuff revolves around tactics. All the fights revolve around tactics, and it's like that specific fight. And then after that, it's all reset. Who cares? Whereas Tarkov's like more nuanced than that. Yeah, we've got CMS kits and stuff, but your max health has gone down. You've got armor that loses durability. You've got ammunition that's difficult to resupply within raid. Like, you can, but it depends on what caliber you go for. You've got your own meds which run down over time as well. There are things like just the amount of painkillers you've got, food and water, everything. There's like so much stuff to being in a raid and having to stay for a while, and then even the wait for carrying stuff around. Whereas in this game, there doesn't seem to be any permanent consequences to any of this stuff. It's like you get knocked down, you just get back up, you just re-heal back up and carry on. And that means, on the flip side, the ramification of that is that every time you meet a squad as a solo, it's 3 players at full freaking health every time, no matter what, because there's never any long-term consequence.
Yeah.
So it's really hard. I think there probably are ways to do it. So the reason why I'm a bit funny about the TTK is that I got annihilated by somebody with one of the long-range weapons, one of the snipers. You don't get access to that at the start at all. I assume you can buy it at some point. I now have one. I picked one up off one of the like scout robot things, and I used it to fight some bots with, basically. And the bots, they take, like the basic ones take, I don't know, 5 to 10 bullets or something. And then the big shieldy boys, like it's like a magazine won't even be enough to kill them. Maybe I'm fighting them wrong, I don't know. But with the big sniper thing, I just killed them all in one hit. I was just like, okay, this is crazy. And like when I got hit by it, it was like all my shield and half my health, literally in one shot from the sniper rifle. And I was like, okay, that seems to be the way. Like if you want to be killing people, you really need to be using these like the big long range stuff rather than the short close range like basic kits, which I sort of get it. But I think it's this thing again we come back to all the time, and I was talking about it on stream extensively actually about the old armor system in Tarkov and this whole interplay between variance versus consistency. And this game is very consistent. The cycle was also very consistent. Apex Legends is very consistent. Tarkov is very variable, but that also gives you these upsets. You know what I mean? Like you come around the corner and Timmy's sat there with his M9 and he just shoots you in your face. You're not wearing it, or you're wearing a death shroud or whatever, but it's PST and he kills you. And you're like, oh, damn, like that can't happen in this game. It's actually impossible. And it would be it would be naive to expect a new player to turn up in Tarkov and be, oh, you know what, so it's impossible for me to kill a 3-man because everyone's so geared, blah, blah. Like, it would be naive to expect you to do that frequently.
Yeah. But it
But
can happen.
it's possible. It
Right.
can happen. And sometimes crazy things do happen, or you get a grenade in the right place and the person dies. And that's it, right? And you get these crazy moments. And I feel that increasing the consistency so much and not having these separate hitboxes or anything like this, it's like it removes those moments of, you know, the crazy upset where you kill the really geared guy. You know, and I've been killed by people with like very little stuff, and it's you can tell that they're new, and you're just like, well, enjoy the loot, right? Because that's gonna be crazy for that dude. And I feel like those moments are kind of robbed from the game in that way. But it also makes it very hard as a solo player. You really have to be much better than them to win. And most of the squads, I guess, later on are probably going to be the same skill level as you. Like, how do you beat 3 of yourself? You know, like it's just not doable really. Like the only way you can do it is with tactics and strategic positioning and stuff. But because you don't get any permanent advantage for taking a player down like you do in Tarkov. Right. Or even if you deal some damage or whatever, that has permanent ramifications in EFT for if you meet those guys again, or if you're flanking or you're fighting. You know, one guy's got a black arm. Like, are they going to CMS? It takes a while. You know, in this, it's just health stim, shield thing on, and it takes a little bit of time. Nothing like having to sit still with a CMS where your teammates like cover you to try and get yourself back up to full health. Like, do you decide to push or not? There's just so many decisions that are taken away by this kind of system, and again, it's just like for solo players, it's just. I just can't see how you're going to be able to do it, even if they make the TTK, you know, like EFT, even
right, like point
the whole,
one.
The original ones that I talked about, the friendly fire thing, the visibility through the map, teammate indicators, the rezzing system. Just cannot see. I cannot see how that's going to work for solo people. And they said, it's designed for squads. And that's fine. But against something like Helldivers, like that's designed for squads too. You probably wouldn't play it yourself. You can, but you probably wouldn't play it yourself. But the thing about Helldivers is like you can play with up to 4, you can play 2, 3, 4, you can drop in anytime you like, you can leave whenever you want. Like a game like this, you have to have 3 people specifically ready to go to play Marathon. If you don't have 3, you can't really play. Yes, you can do squad fill, but that's not the same. You've got somebody who might not communicate, and especially in Europe, they might even speak your language. It's like they've got different goals to you. They don't really care. Like, they've got no vested interest to play with you, really. It's just like you can't really choose. They've got this random contract they got to go there and you got to go here. It's like, well, okay, well now we have an unsquarable circle. Like we've got different goals as a team, right? It's just you basically need 3 people to play with. I don't know. It's just that seems short-sighted in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like I understand what they're going for, but I just keep coming back to this idea, like you're making it so consistent and that you're actually going to end up hurting the people you're trying to protect, it seems like, because I guess what I mean by that is like, I feel like the meta is basically going to be, in terms of like how you're going to interact with enemy players, you're going to have at least, like ideally you want at least 2 players, maybe your entire team has a sniper, and then like a secondary weapon, right? And because this is I think this is on the surface it's a nice quality of life feature, but in some ways it's kind of it's double-edged sword. You can ping someone, and from that ping you'll be able to see what type of armor they're wearing, which I think is good. Because how many times, like in Apex, have you saw a guy shot him? He's got gold. It's like, oh, I just tore him up the hornet's nest. It's like, I can't kill him out in the open because I hit him with my assault rifle and did 12 damage to his shield. Anyways, but then let's say you find a target and it's like, oh, this guy's got X shield. I know for a fact with our snipers, if we hit this guy in the body with 2 of our snipers, they're going to go down instantly. Now you got a numbers advantage. I know there's 2 other players. I know they want to get their teammate up. So, like, that team's going to play on the defensive, which means now you can go on the offensive, and you have the numbers advantage. And it's like 3 guns shooting at 1 guy is higher DPS than 2 guys shooting at 1 guy. You know what I mean? It's just like the math there is in your favor. And again, if that TTK range is like, as you said, Tarkov's TTK has a really low TTK. I like to, I mean, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but I like to say Tarkov TTK is like very wide. It's like, it can be 0.01 to like 9.78, just something like absurd. It's like you can't have that. Of course, the average is probably a lot more lower, head eyes. But anyways, if this is going to be like, outside of snipers, like zero point 0.4 to like zero point 0.7, it's just like the math just becomes so. It's way too consistent, in that it ends up making it more gameable and metafiable and certain, to where it becomes so like chess like, that you're gonna have high skill players, because there is no like matchmaking, you know, taking advantage of these systems that are like going against the goal that you were trying to do, which is like make the game more casual friendly. Like I just feel like it's very deceptive on the surface. These are great things, but then in the PvP environment,
Yeah.
these actually go against your players. And like, yeah, the game is like, solo option is there just because, like, just as like a throwing a bone, I guess, but like it's not at all. There's just no, you just can't, like, you're going
Yeah.
in at disadvantage. And yeah, I think, I don't get me wrong, I like that, once you're down, you're just not there twiddling your thumbs watching your friends play. Like, you can come back in, but I do think it is kind of like, it's way too formulaic, and they got to do, like, I feel like if they want to appease some of the more PC/Tarkov gamers, they got to do something there on that end.
Yeah, there's two other things as well that you just reminded me about that I forgot about, which is, yeah, you're playing against three people, but again, this game is sort of like a hybrid, like hero/class based shooter. So if you're playing on your own, you have to pick one of the runners and have one set of abilities. You're going against three people with three sets of abilities. So I switched over to Void because you can go bloody invisible, right? It's just like
Right.
get you out
That
of jail
seems like an
free card, because I was like,
obvious pick, yeah.
seems good as a solo player.
Right.
But you're playing against people who also, they might have one of those abilities. They might have somebody who's got the
Mm-hmm.
shieldy thing, so then you can't really kill them. They've got somebody else with like the walls tracker, throw the
Mm-hmm.
ping
Mm-hmm.
players things. You can see them through walls, stuff, whatever. So they can see you through walls and go invis, and they've got a shield
Right.
man,
Right.
and it's like the you're just like one with your one skill set. And they've got
Exactly.
synergistic skill sets over the top of each other, so they're not just three players. They're like 3.5 to 4 players, because they've got skills that overlap well as well. So it's just, it
Yeah.
makes it like extra hard. And then you've also got the thing of like, because I was saying, I don't know about the PvP TTK. It seems like they've lowered it a lot, it seems, already, and the snipers seem really fast, and AR is probably, it's a lot higher than in Tarkov, but still,
Mm-hmm.
it's not as bad as it could be. It's probably not as bad as the cycle was, but the PvE TTK is like horrendous. It's so high, but
Yeah.
it's designed for three people shooting at these enemies. So if you're playing solo, you can like overrun like super easily. Like,
Yep.
it's very easy to just get completely overrun. And with the shield guys, I mean, maybe there's a way, as I said, you're supposed to play against them that I'm not sure about yet. But like the basic bots are no real problem. But if you play against the shield dudes, you normally need at least like two angles. Well, that's kind of how they function, right? You need one person at the side to
Mm-hmm.
shoot them, while one person kind of takes the aggro. Like if it's just you can't distract them or anything. They just belt you, and they suppress as well. So they shoot into corridors, so you can't even peek out. And if you're on your own,
Yeah,
it's
because there is
like
no lean, right?
there's no lean, so you can't peek and lean there, and you're sat there for ages. The gunfight takes forever as well, so
Yeah.
you're signposting yourself to all the other squads that there's a
Yeah.
PvP fight going on, because it takes you an eternity to clear out the bots, which is crazy. Like it's so hard. Like the solo runs I've played, most of the time I've just tried to avoid them. Like you
Oh
kill
yeah.
some of the basic bots, and if there's one or two of them, that's okay. But if there's a big group of like 4 or 5 of them, they all like swarm at you. Some of them are going invis. There's ones with shields. Like you just don't have enough firepower. It's like insane. And even because the TTK is high on them as well, outside of things like the sniper rifle, you end up in this like weird situation, because it's like fighting the bots on Helldivers, right?
Mm-hmm.
The trick to fighting other ranged enemies
Mm-hmm.
is to pop out, fire, and pop back in again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's how it works in EFT. You minimize your exposure the whole time, so you can't get shot. But when the TTK on your gun is really high, you have to pop out and go and fire for ages. You're then getting shot while you're doing that process. Like, yeah, you can pop in and out to try and avoid the bullets, but that it takes a long time for them to go down, and you have to expose yourself for quite a while to actually get the kill, because you're both looking at each other. Now, I did have some they will keep looking for you in the way that they think you are, which is kind of okay. So you can, if they're in a corridor, they shoot at you in a corridor, you jump past, and then you go up and out along. You can get behind them that way, but you have to do like full on proper flank, and you have to kind of know the map and like know where you are in the buildings and stuff. So this is what I'm thinking. Like maybe it's doable. I saw some other people's comments. Some nice guy was saying, you can tell who's played extraction shooters before or not. That some people have been playing solo and have been killing like whole squads of people because they're just like oblivious. I haven't had that experience. I guess you might get that more as more people get let in, because most of the people who've got codes right now are people who are more probably more experienced gamers, right? Because they're either creators or whatever. That's the reason why they got in the first place. There's like a big selection bias as to who got in. And I've been murdered by like a whole bunch of squads. People just with like good gear already and stuff like this because they've been playing non-stop for like 3 days. So it's interesting, but like it's very hard to fight the AI solo with the worst guns in the game. Which is that any different to Tarkov? Like it's kind of hard to kill scavs with a pistol without dying, without any. If you got no armor, like it's sort of similar, but there's like a method to it. If you're careful, you can peek around and shoot them once in the head, and then move away, and then go loot them, get a better gun.
Still have the TTK difference though. So like
the fact that you can one shot them,
right?
You can just do the peek, and then bam, and then you one shot them,
right?
It's such a different experience.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I've already seen footage of this. Was my fear when I saw the gameplay reveal. I've already seen footage of like squads. I think it was like Jesse, someone who I'm not familiar with, and Berkey were playing, and they fought a team. Like I've seen this multiple times. They've been fighting a team, and then AI like basically gets in the way of the team fight, and because AI does probably the same amount of DPS as a player, but has like 3x the HP. Like they've died to AI before many a times, and it's like that is almost unanimously going to be a frustrating experience, especially in that context where you're trying to deal with an enemy threat. And I fear that one of the metas will be, okay, we load out the raid, we spawn in, and I have to like talk about this too later, but let's do nothing, loot nothing, and then when we hear shots, let's go there. And third party, the people fighting AIs are not even fighting players; they're just fighting AIs. So like, I don't know. I actually felt my very negative takeaway from like the gameplay reveal trailer a couple weeks ago was like, this game would be better off PvE only, because it
probably
and to give a bit of a positive praise. I think the AI looks really good. Like they have that like COD type of animations. Like you play DMZ, how they like do like they like lean around corners and stuff. There's a lot of that going on. I think that looks really good. Like they do like this dash, jump, sidestep. Like it all looks. And then they have this cool like idle animation where like their heads are tilted down or just like hovering around. I love how it looks and stuff. And it's like very conveyed. They're like in like a non-alert phase. So I don't know. I feel like in some ways it would just be better off if it just was like PvE only, 3 players. And I have a couple of friends who are like not as hyped about extract shooters. Like, yeah, this would be more appealing to me. So I don't know. But the other thing I did want to mention was persistent servers. I don't know why they did this. They've said some elusive reasonings why they wanted it. They made the switch. Apparently before the gameplay reveal, it was rumored and stated or whatever that it was going to be like the cycle servers, which, quick reminder, persistent servers. You load into the middle of a match. There is no timer. I don't think there was a timer. There wasn't like no universal map timer. You could get in and out whenever you wanted, and the loot and map would like reset. There would be a storm that would come by. You have to like hide from the storm. It was really cool. I loved it. It was like by far the best feature of the game. Doesn't get enough praise for that single feature. It like basically carried the game for me personally. Like everything else about the game was like okay, and some parts were like bad, like particularly the way they handled gear. It was so bizarre. Like if you had like starting gear versus someone who had like legendary gear, they had like damage amplification against you, and also they got like damage resist. It's like, how am I ever supposed to compete with this person? It's like their TTK got in. Their defensive TTK got increased, and their offensive TTK got increased. It's like, what am I even supposed to do here? And then you couldn't even like
Yeah.
know this stuff until you shot them or they shot you. It was terrible. Anyways, so they got rid of that in exchange for, you know, instant space, aka Tarkov like server structure, right? Where you load in, everyone loads at the same time, etc. I don't know. Again, I feel like that leans even more into against the solo player, against the casual player, because now you're just going to have more of a deterministic outcome. Like, in some ways, I could understand, like, it may be hard for a player to come in into the middle of a match and you have zero context of what's happening and what's going on until you like move it around the map and like saw, oh look, there's monsters in this area. Maybe no one's been here, and then you go to another zone. It's like, oh, there's dead aliens. I guess people have been here. I need to be careful, you know. And maybe that was a much harder experience. I heard some of the reasoning was like technical challenges. Like one of them was like, well, how are we going to handle glass? Because like you can break glass, and then now that glass is permanently broken. Like, how do you reset that in a way that's like, I don't know. It sounds like they had a technical challenge. It also sounded like there was, I imagine it was multi-layer, like it was technical challenge, and it was also just like the game will be easier to understand for general players if it works like this. Like you spawn here on the edge of the map, you know there's other people spawning, and then you know where to go and loot and etc. Whereas if you
Yeah.
load in with like no context, it's going to be a little bit harder. But me as a player, and you know what I've experienced and all that I am, I'm just like really disappointed because I just feel like this is just going to lend even more to like me. You know, it's like in battle royales. It's like one of the cool things that you get to do is you ride the drop ship or battle bus or whatever, and you get to choose, make a decision off the rip where you want to go. You maybe have your preferences with your little friend group, or maybe you just like do something based off what other people are doing. You see a lot of people drop early, like, oh, I want to go here, I want to go to the edge of the map, I want to go to the hotspot. Like, you get some player agency, and it's like feels more genuine. Whereas like this is just like,
Yeah.
I spawn here. The more experience I have, I know where other people are. Like it just becomes too formulaic, and I just feel like that is absolutely like they're shooting themselves in the foot.
I agree. Yeah, you're right. Apparently they did. Apparently they did have it like that originally. They rolled it back. I don't really know. I don't really know why. But I will say to you
Yes.
that I've already had the experience of spawning in, running into a team within the first minute, and dying.
Yeah, I mean, I've already seen it in footage, so yeah, I believe it.
And yeah, it's another one of the things that I think is tricky. This is the thing, right? Like, obviously, we're being hypercritical
Of
because
course.
we're looking at the stuff that we think is potentially not right about this game.
Hmm.
The game itself is pretty solid.
Yeah.
Like it's functional, it's playable, but it seems to be for a very specific kind of person. Feels to me like it's for console person that hasn't played extraction shooters before,
Hmm.
that has two friends dedicated to play with.
Yeah, but
That's
it's like
the game. That's who's willing to spend $40. That's
exactly.
the
It's like,
specific
how are you
person
going to
who this is for.
convince them? Because they need to have a good experience, and you're telling me getting killed by an enemy team within 1 minute and losing everything is going to be like a good experience for them? I just don't
Well, they're going to be
understand.
match made by level apparently. So you're going to be also in with newbie people when you first start.
When you
So
first start, though, I guess yeah, but then you still gotta like they still have to buy in. I just have a really hard
yeah,
time thinking people are gonna, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll see.
yeah, I don't know. So it's just it's complicated, and this is I just feel like it's a missed opportunity. It's another missed opportunity. I feel it's just like they don't seem to have learned any of the lessons from the cycle, and we haven't even talked about cheating yet. This game isn't even out, and like not, usually these games are full of people being like, "Oh well, how are you going to deal with cheaters?" That was one of the big
Hmm.
Grey Zone Warfare things, which is like still a bit of a question mark as these games become popular. The $40 price tag thing helps a bit, so a bit easier than if it's on free to play model, sure. I don't know what Bungie's track record is with cheaters, but to be honest, no one's track record is very good with cheaters, except for maybe Valorant. It's like the only game that I'm aware of that actually has a positive, community perception of their anti-cheat.
I guess just to quickly comment on it, I don't know how much, just take this as a grain of salt, but the current lead designer, Kevin Yanis, I think, he worked on Valorant. I think he was also a designer, and prior to him working with Bungie, because he was just a consultant,
Right.
yeah, I guess so. I've heard it's something they're aware of and like very vigilant on. It seems, but that remains to be seen. So we'll see. I mean, obviously nothing's gonna be perfect, but yeah, I just offer that as a little insight for those of you that may not know.
Yeah, and so it's just there seems to be a lot of just a lot of things that, again, it's like who's it for? It's not deep enough,
Yeah,
not enticing enough for the OG veterans of the genre. It's too expensive for new players. It's not got enough lore or story base for people who play Destiny. It's just like
feels all over the
seems like
place.
it's a little bit, yeah. Like, I mean, I don't want to be super harsh about it, but it's the quote, game for everyone is a game for nobody kind of comes to mind
Yeah,
when thinking
yeah,
about it.
but
But like, it's strange because I do I'm intrigued to see what comes through the upgrades and stuff.
hmm
Right? I am sort of intrigued to see what happens further
what
down the
were
trees.
some of the things you liked? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you out there, but I'm curious because we
Yeah,
talked a lot about what we don't like, and I know
yeah,
you've played
problems
it.
and this, that, and the other. Hmm. I mean, the world. I mean, I like the world. The world is cool. I think the
hmm
map is more. It's obviously not like Tarkov level detail. Peeking through gaps and stuff like this. Like Tarkov's is just on the next level,
Yeah,
but the worlds are pretty interesting. I would say they're probably more interesting than the cycle. They look a lot like the cycle in many ways. The inside areas are more extensive than on the cycle because the cycle is usually like a few scattered laboratories or something that you
right.
went in, and most of it was outside. This is kind of a bit of a mixture, but it's got the hallmarks of like OG Tarkov map design in a very macro sense. Like, you'll have like a big wall through the middle of the map. Like, it's impassable. You can't get through. There is no way. It's like 15 feet high or like
hmm
more. It's like 50 feet high, like huge barrels of some data cord thing that's going from one place to another. So you have to find a way around. Um, the map is. I'm still a bit torn on the map. The map, you open it up and you can't zoom or anything. It's just like an overview. You can't like zoom super far in, figure out anything like that. You kind of have to explore it yourself. And the map doesn't really do justice either to the verticality of this game. Like, there's a lot of up, a lot of down. There's tunnels underneath. There's like secret
hmm
passageways through the mountains and stuff. So map knowledge is pretty important. It feels a little bit like OG Customs because of the wall. Right, the wall never used to have as many shortcuts and secret jumps and stuff back like right at the beginning. Or the
Yeah.
ones that were there were kind of, people didn't really know them as much to begin with. Feels a little bit like that. So it's not that easy necessarily to get all the way through the map. Like, a lot of these games, I feel, fall down a bit because you can just kind of go anywhere, whenever, and there's not really like the POIs are just plonked there, and there's just empty space in between. I think the outside areas could be more interesting. It's very it's kind of POI heavy, but yeah, the path to get from one place to another is kind of cool. And there's some stuff like there's these sort of commander type units that appear on the battlefield, and sometimes they're there already. I'm not 100% sure on the mechanic yet, but they're inside this big like red dome shield. And if you go in, it basically like messes up your like operating system. You can't like see
Huh.
properly. Like, it all goes crazy. I'm not sure exactly which part that's affecting. It's one of the kind of
The
one of the skills.
stats
If you go,
or yeah.
yeah, if I go into my thing, you've got firewall,
hmm
which is to do with your like EMP or hack. So if you get EMP or hack, so you've got like this firewall stat, and there's an item. I think I might have one of them to hand. There's a couple of these items which are like where is it?
Consumables or sorts.
Yeah, there's like there's consumables of different levels as well. And so one
Hmm.
of them is called like OS reboot. So it's like removes hazardous operating system status effects. So you have to have one of these items, and then you can go in the shield and kill these guys. So there's like certain things you have to have with you to do certain things. Um, there's no secure container, so I think the keys for the map are on the map. So
Yeah.
you basically get the key
That
and go to the
is.
rooms and do the thing. I haven't done much of that yet, but that's kind of cool. So no secure container is like interesting. I think because of that, the gear is quite cheap. So the starter
hmm
gear is quite cheap. But I also don't really. I'm torn on that actually. I don't really mind. It never feels like you're unable to play, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you go down to 0 credits, it's got a darker and darker style like free kit, like sponsored kit, which is
Hmm.
like a white weapon, some meds and whatever, so that you can like basically it's basically the minimum viable kit that you can run to actually go and play. So you can always play. So that's quite good, but there isn't really the same sense. I mean, again, it might just be due to inexperience, but there's really the same sense in Tarkov of just like I'm like literally I'm running out of money and I really need
I know
to,
what you mean.
you
Yeah,
know,
I was just thinking
yeah,
that
because that's kind of good and bad, right?
it's like
It's
it goes
both. It's a double-edged
against.
sword.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, great. Now you've made it to where I'm not absolutely broke, but now I don't have that extra layer of anxiety. It just feels like I'm playing a battle royale match. It's like, oh, let's queue up for the next one. We'll try again to get the victory royale.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you just keep trying again with the cheap kit until eventually you get something good, and then you're like, okay, now we can kind of play the game like properly and like actually do PvP and stuff. Because
yeah.
we tried doing lots of PvP fights the other day when I played as a 3, and it was just it was just if anybody's got anything of any worth over the top of the white stuff, you just lose.
Really,
That's how it felt anyway. Yeah,
yeah. I was curious. What did I saw Ida was playing with you?
yeah.
What were some other people playing with you? What were their vibes like?
I think the same. I think this very similar, right? Because we're all Tarkov people, so we kind of come
Yeah.
from the same perspective. So I think that's the deal. It's like, is the game loop itself interesting enough? Is there enough to
Mm-hmm.
actually keep you going? Um, I just think there could. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm
Yeah.
just not sure. It's just is it interesting enough? Is the loot interesting enough? Is there a good enough reason to go through and do all this stuff? I'm just not sure what we're aspiring to, and I think we're missing a
Yeah.
bit of that intangible goal right
I
now
guess it's just
in
like
this.
this feels more like a demo. You know, it's like, hey,
Hmm.
we have concepts of a plan. I can't remember where. Oh, that was on the podcast I watched. They were like, yeah, they have a concept, and then they were like, we have concepts of a plan. It's like, but we don't really have like this isn't a proof of concept. Like this isn't. This is like, here's our rough ideas. What do you guys think? You know, and also here's what we're planning. But
Yeah,
like, what do you guys think? You know. So and it's like they're ask. It feels like right now. Again, it is a closed alpha or whatever it is. I don't even know. But I just yeah. I would like to play it, but I'm so like over it now. It's just like if I get in
yeah,
great, I'll try it. But like my
yeah.
optimism
But
has been I've had like a roller coaster of
they've burnt the
emotions.
goodwill.
I just think they're in a really hard spot, and it doesn't help that there's this pricing debacle going on because I just feel like you're gonna have a really hard time convincing new players and pre-existing players of the genre to spend $40 on a game that's going to be monetized and live service when you have concepts of a plan right now, because that's all we really have. It's like, hey, here's the very basics of the gameplay, the things you know and love. You love looting, you love extraction, you love shooting your gun at AI and enemies, right? You love this stuff. But they don't. They're like missing the juice, the X factor. You know, well, it's like I can already do this in Tarkov, and Tarkov has the labyrinth. What do you guys have? It's like, oh well, we got concepts of a labyrinth, the marathon. You know, but it's like that's all hush hush. It's not in the very open eye. They just gotta. It needs more time to cook. I don't think as much time as something like the Gray Zone Warfare. Like when I
Yeah.
saw that, it's like, okay, this needs and played it a little bit. It's like this needs like another 2 years at least in the oven. This feels like it needs like a year in the oven, and then like
Mm.
a part of that year is like they've rolled out season 1 and season 2. You know what I mean? Like I need to see what those first couple of like seasons are gonna be like, and what's gonna be in there content wise. What are we talking about? Story. You know, I love the world, and like I part of me really wants this to succeed just because I'm praying to God they'll do like a Netflix series like they did with League of Legends, because that was really good. What was that called again? I don't even remember.
Arcane.
Arcane, yeah. Like But like this looks so like I don't want to say so much better, but like I just love it. You know, I don't know. I just want to watch it. I want to sit there and watch Glitch impreg Void with your blast.
Oh my goodness, this took a turn.
Alright, I can't get impreg memes out of my head.
But yeah, I love the lore more than anything else about this game, and I love
For sure.
the sort of cinematic and stuff more than anything else I've seen so far. I just don't think you can get that vibe out of an extraction shooter, and I think you're right that it may have made a better PVE game, honestly, than anything else. Like
Maybe.
I was thinking, even in this game, you could do with sort of they've taken inspiration from lots of other games. It's like the Hunt Showdown, like noise trap things in there. There's like a bunch of crows. It's like almost the same. It's like a bunch of like alien
Yeah,
crows.
yeah,
You like walk
yeah.
up and they all fly away. It's like the same kind of. They've taken like lots of different things from other games. They could almost do with like the Fortress Stronghold thing from Helldivers, where you have to kind of almost like solve a puzzle to get in. It's like, oh, there's these gun turrets and there's these things that lock down your abilities and blah blah. Like, getting into those fortresses on the higher levels is like not easy. You have to kind of like go around and like find the weak spot and stuff. Doesn't seem to be any of that kind of thing in this game with the enemies. They're just kind of all there, or they spawn in. They drop ship in, but like even the drop. Some people don't even like. There's like the hues. You get this UESC like massive box in the sky where it's like drop shipping in, reinforcements and stuff. But I quite like the look of it. It's like very cool. It's almost as if you're like inside a game. It's like very Tron like in many ways. And lots of people have made references to Tron. But it's just I don't know. Like where's the I just don't know where that tease is in terms of what we want to do. Why I feel really compelled to go and get stuff and upgrade things. And I think almost the extraction shooter part also makes it a bit harder in some ways too. Because I'm like, oh, I need to go and get this item. So, and it does tell you in this, like many of the new ones, where you can get it from. So it's like, okay, I've got to go in, I've got to go and be first into this area to go and loot this one specific thing, so I can then go and buy a bag in the shop. You got to go and do that loop a few times. Whereas I feel like in something like Helldivers, the progression kind of was like hand in hand with what you were supposed to do. You like clear out the enemy stronghold, and in there will be the resources that you slowly gather over time to then buy the upgrades you need. Do you know what I mean? Like it's sort of similar, but it felt more natural to do. You just like you do the thing the game wants you to do, go and clear the map out, and it felt really satisfying to do as well. And then you got to get the resources at the same time, and it just felt so natural. Whereas in this game, it just doesn't feel as natural. It feels like yet another like collect all the loot stuff. Your stash is really tiny, so it's a bit like the standard Tarkov account experience as well. You've got like rare items, but you can't use them to unlock anything because you're not that high level. But you're not going to get it again. But then you can't. But then you've got no space in your stash for the stuff that you're trying to upgrade for the first level of the things you're doing. So and you need like 12 CPUs and stuff like this for the first. There's like processors and things for the first upgrade, and it's a lot. Like there almost needs to be some, it's like these days the workbench level 1 is like 2 nuts, 2 bolts. Like it's really straightforward. Like a lot of the upgrades here, I've only been able to upgrade one permanent upgrade so far, and I've played for I've actually played for 9 hours, but that's probably because I've had it open a bit while I've been looking at stuff. But I've played probably like 6 to 9 hours, and I've upgraded like 1 slot in the factions upgrade so far. I'm just like, we need a bit more. We need a bit more of this progressional dopamine. I need to feel like I'm working towards this stuff more closely.
Yeah, I mean,
to really want to jump back in and play.
I think there is something kind of interesting with the way they're going it. Again, it's kind of like casualifying it. It's like you have the sort of build crafting moment to moment, looting in the raid, the rare events, like you find a key, there is no container, it's just one use, you got to go do the thing or save it for a later run. But then on the like trader side or like outside the raid, you have this kind of like roguelike system where as you progress, you get like innate character buffs, like which I think is interesting, and like that wipes season to season. Again, I don't know how. I feel like they're gonna have a hard time convincing initially Destiny players and those types of people, like, to be invested in that. But I think that is kind of interesting because it's like, that was another like key point is like you don't have like survival isn't a requirement for questing. You just like as long as you do the thing, you get credit. So that way, feels like you're achieving something. And then I guess that's like the dopamine is like as as you progress, you're just constantly getting something, slowly getting more powerful. Will that be so much to where like a level 50 character versus a level 1, they got all these passives or whatever? I don't know. There's so many question marks. I'll keep my eye on the game, but it's just like I'm definitely. It's just been such a roller coaster for me, and it would be nice to play it. That's all I got. I'm
Yeah.
gonna stop harping on that.
Let the
Eventually,
people play the game.
yeah. I don't know. I feel like that was a mistake, but there will be a secondary. Apparently, it's gonna be an open beta closer towards the release. So maybe like June, July. I think release September. So hopefully things will be better then, and people, yeah. Hopefully things will be better then. Um,
Yeah, we'll see. I don't want this to be bad.
I don't
I really don't.
either. Partially, I don't know. I feel really butthurt about.
I know.
It's hard for me to get over that. Um, yeah, I hate because I feel bad at the same time. It's like I don't want the game to fail and like Sony to lay off Bungie because you got to think Bungie's like surely not them, but at the
Well, they
same
had that other
time,
game, right? That people keep talking about, Concord, which I like literally hadn't even heard of. It probably died so quickly that like I
yeah,
didn't even get time to even hear about this game.
yeah. The gaming industry sucks right now. So like I don't
It
want
does.
Bungie to pay the cost, but at the same time, I really feel like whoever made some of these decisions on a more, executive level, financial business stuff, it just like gross. In other news, you want to see my collection of
No.
what do you mean no? Wait, I didn't even
No.
finish. My collection of
Were you going to say mpreg memes?
No, I was gonna say marathon memes. Some may
Oh,
be.
okay. No, hold on. No, this is the same thing.
Okay, well, let me clarify because I think some people may impreg it as in the letter M and then preg, not any other way. It's not that. It's weird a little bit. Actually, okay, this is a great story. So someone, there's even a GIF of it. Or do I have it saved? I don't. Someone joined the Discord, right? The Marathon Discord, and they joined the faction Mida. And I need to find the GIF because it's so funny. And they just are basically just like stun locked by seeing all the impreg memes. And they type in, it's like, how do you leave a faction, guys? And they're like, what? Why? You can. It's like, oh. And then they were like, is every faction like this? It's like, no, only we are. And they're like, how do I leave? And they're like, mods, impreg this man. It's just everyone's impregging emote. This guy is so funny to me. So funny. Like I could just imagine some like dad in like their late 40s, maybe 50s, are just like, oh, Bungie's new game. I want to join the official Discord. Oh, I joined a faction. Cool. And they just like get flooded with these deranged memes. I love it.
Midas, like in the lore, from what I've read, is supposed to be like the resistance faction on Mars, like fighting back against Earth. So because everybody became super poor, they were like some kind of like underground resistance movement. Was the
Yeah.
deal?
There's another one where I don't know if it's real or not, but there's like a GIF or like a screenshot saved of a Bungie dev saying in like Discord, like, yeah, my Easter was great. I think I ate too much. Dare I even say impreg? And they did an impreg emote. I just a part of me just like hopes like this will redeem the game for me is like within the game lore. They just do like very elusive hints to the Mida impreg meme within the Discord. You know what I mean? To where the point it's like people are
Yeah.
questioning if it's like a slip or if like Bungie was actually, you know what I mean? It's just like so nebulous and gray. I just think that'd be so funny. But only like people who know would like get it. It's like,
It's so niche as well. Like one sub faction of 6 in the middle of this like random Discord about one specific game. It's so niche. Well, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Like I think I would be more excited in this game if it wasn't so squad focused. Honestly, I'm interested to see whether you can make it work as a solo player as you get further through. Because like Tarkov's hard as a solo too, but there's ways to make it work. Like with the TTK maybe being lower with the better stuff, maybe there's a way. I'm not really sure, but it feels like you're just not going to be able to play this if you're on your own, which makes me a bit sad, you know. And I don't want to play the squad fill because that sucks. So yeah, like I'm probably not going to put that much time into it, unfortunately. I think because of that. And they've said that they have no plans to add a solo queue or anything like this. They say we want to focus on the core experience for the time being. We want to focus on this trios mode that we've got going. It's like, ugh, what is this?
Some of my favorite memes.
I did not receive a Marathon Alpha invite.
Yeah, I think it's Jerva. I don't really know it too well, but yeah, it's a funny one. Sorry, I'm just as you're talking, I'm going through some of my favorite memes.
Yeah, but yeah, the trios thing, it just sucks. It just sucks.
Yeah.
Like, why did they have to lean so heavily into that? Like, maybe surely there was another way to do this. I don't know. It's just, and that's the thing. I always go back to Helldivers and be like, I know it's PVE and it gives you a lot of slack in terms of what you need to do, but you know, the fact you could join whenever, you could have any size group up to 4, you know, it's just free flow in and out, like no big deal. It'd be so cool, like in this game, if you could, you know, drop in where you wanted or something a bit like the Helldivers like entry, you know, you like have a tactical map and it's like, oh, here's players here, but you can drop in this section, you know, and you choose where you want to go and then you drop in. And I feel like there's so many better ways to do it. Like so much of the game, like I love the art style and the lore, but it's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Like there's most of the game is just cookie cutter extraction shooter mechanics, and then with a super heavy squad focus. That's like kind of how the game is mostly, right?
Yeah.
So like the bog standard extraction shooter experience combined with the 3-person squad style hero shooter skills-esque thing with maybe build crafting, but who knows, because you have to be, you know, level 30 plus to even have enough purchasable cores and whatever to actually do any sensible builds other than like, oh, I'm going to ping this enemy and it's going to last 20 seconds longer. Like, who cares? It just doesn't seem meaningful. So that's a lot of this stuff's just kind of putting me off for the time being. But
I agree.
We'll see. Apparently, they've been very open. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Again, listening to Jesse talk about it, he said they're very open and you know, they've been thinking about a lot of stuff. Listening to what people are saying, but ultimately they're kind of hamstrung by like the design decisions they've taken already and the market that they're going for. I think they like pigeonhole themselves into this corner with
a bit, yeah.
The instance-based raids and you know all the rest of it that they've got going. So there's definitely a way to salvage this, but yeah, the super heavy squad focus thing is like just put a solo mode in. Like, come on, is it really that bad?
Yeah,
I know you have to balance it and stuff, but is it really that bad to put a solo mode in? Is that going to kill anyone?
I think I fundamentally just agree with Jesse's take on the matter, which was like this happens in every game where you have 3 is like the essential. People complain they want a solos mode. Now they have to do a solos mode. Now it feels weird because you got this hero shooter. Everyone's running like the same hero because, you know, it's like you're not going to play a medic, you know, a support class solo. Because who are you going to support? Yourself? Like you can no. Yeah. I mean, so everyone's going to be void. Like it just doesn't work well. And it's like they should, and then you have to balance everything around that. Presumably spawning. It's like they should just eat it out of the game. Just like max is 3, you can play solo. I don't know. It's just
you should have been able to kind of mix and match the abilities and stuff. Like a lot of people said, "Oh, it's not a hero shooter, it's class-based shooter, whatever." But like it at the beginning, it's so much more hero shooter than it is.
Yeah,
and they should have really gone hard into the class-based build crafting thing. They could have gone like full ARPG style with like different builds, and
I agree.
You know, it leans like some of it's permanent, some of it's with the cores or whatever. Like it's so weird to have it's also weird to have a build crafting game where like you lose all of the stuff for your build when you die. It's like it's
no,
there's so many like there's so many things that just feel like they're clashing against each other with it. It's just I don't understand. There's maybe something great can come out of this, but it's weird.
I think for me that was something I had thought of, and probably my favorite criticism from you was, yeah, just give you like basic, levers to pull and slide at the
Mm.
start. Like, just give you all the gray implants for free, and you get to do something there. Like, just yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah,
Um,
so you can at least do something. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, because otherwise, as you said, it's just gonna be, I don't know, it's gonna be weird, especially in solos. I just did want to shout out again. First of all, if you haven't seen the cinematic short, definitely watch it. 8 minutes long, really good. If you want to see, there's a couple of different people. Filmmaker reacts to marathon reveal. But this is one that I came across. Their name is Philip. Philip Hartshorn. Hartshorn. I don't know. Um, but I was like, thank you for putting into like providing me the language to describe what I was like feeling and experiencing while watching this, because they do like a perfectly good job at that. And it's super interesting to hear someone else's like professionally, someone else's like, explanation of what's going on and how they're using different techniques to convey these feelings and such. Because yeah, it's just like, it's such a good, I mean, it's from the Death and Robots team slash
Yeah, lots of people were
studio.
like, "Oh, it looks so much like Love, Death and Robots," and it turns out one of the producers who's made two of the episodes. I think one's called Jaro, and the other I can't remember the other one's name. And he's that guy, so he's one of the Love, Death and Robots like producers. So that's why it looks like that, because it's the same dude. So
Mm-hmm.
you can think of it like a Love, Death and Robots episode, and it's amazing. It's the best piece of Marathon so far.
Yeah, by far. Sorry, it just reminded me
And I want to
where
see more of it.
impreg memes were popping in my head.
Oh my god, it's too much.
That's the second best thing lore wise to come out of Marathon. Uh, Nevertheless,
Yeah.
look forward to whatever your video will probably be the last marathon content thing I consume for some time. I've just went from like hyper consumption to like a zero consumption because I'm just like so sick and tired and fed up of everything. Nothing like inherently against the game. I'm just, or even like content creators. Like, I understand you would be foolish to not do videos. It's just like, I just want experience for myself, and it's like they're I guess there's like a fine line of building hype. It's like you can't there's you know you can only do so much before you start getting fatigue and negative responses.
Yep. I understand. It makes sense.
Anything else before we wrap up? I know we went a little extra.
No, I think that's it. I think that's it. Yeah, I always feel with these things like if stuff's just bad, then I don't
Mm-hmm.
care. I always care
Mm.
when things have potential and then they're kind of messed up or like the lost opportunity. And that's why I always feel like hurt by these things. And I feel the same way about this in many ways. I'm just like, man, why couldn't it just have been a bit different? Like, why couldn't they have just made some different decisions? I just get this kind of like going through the stages of remorse in some ways. Kind of like, man, this could have been like the next big thing. But now it's like
Yeah.
not going to be. At least not for me. I really don't think, unless there's some big changes. I just can't. I can't see how. I can't see how I could play this in the way that I play games. I just can't see it.
Yeah.
It just makes me sad.
It's one of
Yeah.
those things where I feel like the phrase "you can't judge a book by its cover" comes to mind, but like not only from like for people who haven't played the game, but from people who have played the game, you've only like read the first chapter. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And it's like you're trying to assess it from that, and it's not really fair to you or the material. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's a business. There is money to be made, so like, right? It's not just like here's this art piece you get to enjoy. So they're trying to do the things that you ought to do to generate hype and whatnot. I get it. So We'll see, though. I agree. I think it doesn't instill hyper confidence in me, but I gotta just see what it looks like a year down the road from now.
Hmm. Exactly. We will see.
And with that, one final meme for the road. Showing off my impreg to everyone. What's this movie from? Monsters? I can't remember. It's an older movie, but it's good. This is me showing off impreg memes to everyone. The Midas
And everyone
symbol.
in chat, like, what is church on about?
Yeah. It's one of those things you listen to audio, you just gotta see it to believe it. Just join the official Marathon Discord, join the Mida faction, and go into chat and just let it scroll. Embrace it. We are Mida. We are Impreg. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you all next week.
Bye-bye.
We are Mida. We are Impreg.